pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So our compadre, Jason Somro will be here about 15 minutes late or so, but we're gonna go ahead and start the meeting. Did you have anything that we needed to vote on today, Meredith?
Yeah, do you want to talk about whatever, and then I have two appointments I have to do at 5:30 and at 6, but I could come back if you need to vote. The only thing I need to vote on is if we're gonna move to this hourly rate, and if you guys will approve the hourly rate that I submitted.
Okay.
So last week we had quite a discussion on the plan, and then Jason and Lou wanted some kind of idea of what I thought it would have cost us to go to hourly. So then I sent that email that I sent to Debbie with regards to, basing on June, because we could track June under the new system, and then how much it was costing us for payroll for June, and then I based it on 200 calls for the year, so that averages about 15 calls a month, so then I upped it, and then gave a total for 6 months, and then under what we paid for stipends. So it looks like, because I think the big concern from Jason was, would we be able to support the hourly rate for the rest of the fiscal year? Because my budget would have to support it. There's just over $46,000 in the payroll line, and the stipend amount that we just cut was for $18,000. So we should have plenty. We should be fine. And then even over the weekend I think we had 4 calls. They only come in when I leave town. We had a car accident, we had the 2 alarm activations, and we had a medical, and we still averaged right around 5 or 6 people. One call had 3 people, one call had 9 people, one call had 6 people. So we're averaging 5 or 6 people per call.
Okay.
So it looks like we'll be able to support it under this year's budget. And then in talking with Lou and Jason, it's, if you decide you don't want to do an hourly rate, then we have to come up with a solution for the stipends, because the way that was approved in the past to do stipends does not meet the labor board requirements for the state.
So that changed?
No, apparently it's always been the same, and in doing a little bit of research, that's when I found out you can't pay a stipend based on merit. So you can't say, which was what was approved before was, X amount of meetings, trainings, and calls, and if you made this amount, you got your full amount. If you made this amount, you got a lesser amount, less amount. Apparently you can't do that.
Okay.
So we would have to come up with, I couldn't get a definitive answer when I called the labor board as far as what they would consider legal, but they said what you would have to do is determine what you were going to determine to be a membership, and then everybody that met that membership threshold would then get their full stipend.
So it's an all or nothing?
So it was an all or nothing kind of thing.
That's too bad.
And that kind of bothers me, because
up.
there's people that do almost nothing, and under that guideline, we would have to pay them their full, they don't make a lot of money. Some of them make $1,200 a year, but $1,200 for somebody that's sitting doing nothing just doesn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
So this seemed a lot more fair, for lack of a better word, and it's pretty much all of the departments in the area are doing it, so that doesn't mean we should jump off the bridge either, but.
Yeah, I watched last week's meeting a couple times.
Oh, good.
So Lou, does this satisfy what you guys are looking for?
I don't know about,
justification?
Jason had more questions than I did, but I was for the switch going over to salary.
Okay. Alright.
And I voiced that opinion last week.
Okay. Yeah, no, it looks good, and this is like in conversations that we had had prior to this.
Yeah.
This is kind of exactly where I was trying to get to.
Good.
Was just to make sure, because I know that you had said that you had felt like it would work.
Yeah.
But it's good to actually, work it out and
Yeah,
see it.
now,
So
if we have, all of a sudden the whole town routinely burns down one street at a time for the rest of the year, we may not be able, but looking at statistics over the last 3 or 4 years, we're running right around, anywhere from 175 to 225 calls. So we're right in that ballpark, so we took 200 calls. And then as far as the salary rates, I took, the police department, so we're lower than the police department, but I took Peterborough, Peterborough is quite a bit higher than we are, and then I took Mason, Ashby, and Jaffrey, and Mason's on the lower end, and so then I just put it somewhere in the middle, and then kind of made it compatible with the highway guys and with the police chiefs guys.
okay.
So I think that the salaries are fair.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
found that, I think from your numbers, the difference is $2,000 to $2,500 over the course of the year.
All right. Yeah, so I'm happy with what I'm seeing, and we'll discuss it, and if more questions come up,
Okay.
I can shoot you a text and just see if you're free to come up,
Yeah.
before we vote one way or the other, or we can just table it till next week.
Yeah, I'm just
no?
hoping I'm here tonight. If I need to come back tonight, I can.
Okay.
Because I'm here and all of Alaska's burning, so I can't guarantee you that I'll be here next week.
Okay.
And we are tracking it now. We started tracking it in June, although we paid stipends through the end of June. We are tracking now to start paying this or changing to whatever. We have to change to July 1st.
Yeah.
So if we decide we're going to the hourly rate, we did apply for a waiver from the state to pay monthly, which means that first check would be due August 1st. So we would have to make a decision pretty soon.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Yeah. No, I'm in favor. I like this
Okay.
too, and I think this is like from watching the last week's meeting. This is exactly like what he was asking for.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you want me
I
to
think-
just come back? I have an appointment at 5:30 and one at 6, both for foster care stuff. If I come back do you want me to just come back at 6:30? I'm gonna be out anyway.
Sure. If you want to stop in, you
All right.
can, or yeah. So just plan on coming by
Okay.
after, and then or if you get a text and say don't worry about it, then
Okay.
you're good to go.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I got all my pieces and parts.
Thank you.
Have a
Nice
good
to
night.
see you.
I thought we were doing the 19th.
No, I asked for the 12th as well.
I thought you were on vacation.
No, that was last week.
That was
Last
last
week.
week.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's all right.
I did not put it on the agenda. 'Cause
Yeah, I asked for the 12th, and then I was told to be here for the 19th.
All right.
Yeah, no, that was for the 19th was I think about the police facility
Yeah,
at
that's the
7
26th.
p.m. That's the 26th?
Yeah,
Yeah, we just moved that.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that yet.
because we
so-
couldn't post that in time, so we changed it to
Yeah,
the
so I was,
26th.
anyway, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. And you're in for the finance advisory committee? Or we're slated for 5:20, is that okay?
Take as much time as you need.
Alright, cool, thank you.
I mean, if you want to,
Nope, that's fine.
Sorry, that was my bad.
We'll let you jump in.
I know.
yeah,
I don't know why I thought we changed it to the 19th.
it's alright. I mean, I think I can try to be fairly quick. I just wanted to introduce a couple of things and that we had gone over in the past. I'll first start out with just something that I've been meaning to bring up to the board. So this is a little bit on the negative side, but we'll get through this, and I just wanted to see if we can possibly this not happen again in the future. So I had submitted some invoices at the very tail end of 2021 last year. They weren't paid, and then I got my balance, and it was taken out of my 2022 budget. I think Ms. Deaton knew a little bit about this. I had talked to Roger. Roger had some different thoughts of why it should have been or had not have been paid. One was new hire resources. I only have $2,000 in there for the 2022 budget. Somehow an invoice got carried over for $750 from July 2021. Apparently he was waiting on a W-9, which I guess if he picked up the phone and called the company, we maybe could have got one. So that came out of my 2022 budget, which was 37% of my budget for the new hire, and that was tough to eat. The next was computer services. I submitted an invoice on October 25th, 2021 for $1,699.96. Some reason it didn't get paid till sometime in 2022, which came out of my 2022 budget, which was 37% of my budget. And then under general supplies, I issued a invoice in November of 2021 and didn't get paid till sometime in 2022, which was 62% of my budget for 2022. So it was a $1,600 invoice. And all of those monies were available for 2021, which that's where they should have been taken from. But for some reason they weren't paid till 2022, and I guess hopefully in the future maybe this doesn't happen, but I know my supply line's absolutely gonna go over this year, and my new hire line's gonna go over this year. Probably still fall well within my budget, and my total budget for the year, but in the future, I think if we all make a little bit of extra effort, we can hopefully avoid this again in the future. And some of it we already have had conversations about, but I've been meaning to bring this up just so we can all be on the same page, and hopefully not make these mistakes again in the future.
So those three examples, you had no knowledge that they were being held, right?
The new hire one, which was actually $750 for psychological evaluation of one of the officers, I knew there was some delay there.
Okay. Which one was that? The July, October, November?
That was the July 2021.
Okay.
But with it, there was some question on whose responsibility it was about the W-9, but that didn't come up until 2022.
Okay.
Right, so since then I've made a better effort at getting W-9s and putting them with the invoice. So I've made a better effort myself to try to make sure that that's happening, because I don't want this to happen again.
Yeah.
Alright, so I
And
guess
now
there
I'm
was
assuming that was a vendor that
Correct.
gave you
it was
like,
our
like an actual invoice.
You're correct. It's Psychological Consulting Services who does our psychological evaluations of our new hires.
Alright. Debbie, we've kind of gone back and forth about this before. I don't think that we need W-9s for everybody and their brother that, you know, like
Right.
for these companies, it's a like major companies that are giving us bills,
Yeah.
like it's a bill like for
Right.
products that they're providing
Right.
us or services. Can you just look into if we need W-9s on all of those companies?
Well, in my discussions with Anna at BMSI on Friday, she said, I told him he has to get W-9s for everything he's paying. So,
But BMSI,
that's right.
yeah.
So, yes, I will look into that with a professional.
Yeah,
Cause I could
don't
understand
know.
if it was just like a handyman, like a
Like-
like just a person,
Yeah,
you know,
but
like,
do we have to get it from Staples
no,
and Vistaprint?
no,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, and that November one was a Staples bill, right? I issued it to, I submitted
What?
that, yeah. I submitted that in November 2021,
okay,
right? It's a Staples, we have an account with them,
yeah,
right? And, you know, the other one was Greg Johnson, we needed to upgrade
Cabinet?
our storage. Our backup storage hard drive was running out of space. So we bought a new hard drive. We had the money in the budget to do it last year, so we could accommodate our data. And it was time. We needed to do it. And I made sure it was invoiced and done before the end of the year because I knew I had the money.
yeah,
Anyway, we don't. But that
So
was-
what she did say was he could enter those things and just not pay them. So they would still get charged to the 2021 budget.
Right.
E-
Well, I
so
went
even
to
if
him
he
and
wasn't gonna pay
I
it,
did ask. I said,
I
hey,
remember.
I was actually a little frustrated, and I
Yeah.
said, it needs to come out of the 2021 budget. And I got the answer that, well, I don't think so. It's going to come out of 2022, and that was the end of the discussion.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'll check with the auditors to see if we can reopen 2021 and take it out of that. Although we've already moved that money, so
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know how that would work. Maybe we can do a journal.
Anyway,
entry
I
or
think this
something.
year we'll cover it, but I know myself I'll do a better job. And
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, if we all talk about it, I think we'll just come up with a better process. And Deb and I have already
Yeah.
tackled some of this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I did want to bring it up with the board, so it's known that if I go over on these lines, which I know it's not the end of the world as long as I'm within my budget, but I just want it to be known.
Yeah,
Okay,
which would be a lovely segue to the new software, cause then he would have known that it wasn't paid,
yeah,
but, you know, you
Question,
could upload W-9s right there.
question, can, when an invoice gets submitted, can we just get the accounting department to encumber the money at that time?
He could have put it in
And just held it.
and just held it and not actually cut the check,
No, cut the check.
and it would have been
I know, yeah,
for the appropriate
So-
budget.
is there just, can we instruct them to do it or change their process to do
Yes.
that?
well, yeah, we have to have another conversation, cause this isn't the first time,
Right.
you know, hearing about held invoices and.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, without communication back to the people,
Right.
like it's not until a vendor's screaming for payment and then you have to go and find, oh, well, I was holding on to that for
Yeah.
X, Y, Z, so,
And that's kind of when I found out, you know, that, oh, I'm holding on to that because of this. I'm like,
yeah,
I didn't know.
even,
Call me.
Yeah.
Evening. Apologies for
yeah,
lateness.
no
Good.
worries. Alright,
And that's all I have on that, unless anybody else has any other questions. And then 2 weeks ago when I was here, I just said I wanted to revisit. You know, I know we had talked about trying to come up with some incentives, which would help with employee retention at the PD, and maybe some of this stuff could be used townwide. I know that for the Newswich Police Department over the last year, there's no secret, everybody's worked very, very hard to, you know, pull their weight plus some, you know, working hard on mentoring and training new people, stepping up in all phases of the agency to try to make it whole again.
Mhm.
And everybody's done a really good job. I'm proud of everybody that's at the department, and we're doing a really good job. And people are really, officers and employees, public employees, non-sworn, doing phenomenal. They're doing a great job. Everybody's asking to help out. Everybody's asking what they can do to make my life easier. And, so I want to retain these people. Right? I want to keep these employees as long as possible. So I came up with some incentives. I'm not asking for the town to adopt all of them. It's just a list. And then to be fair, they're not in any specific order, meaning prioritized. Although some of the beginning ones are important. So I know some of them have been introduced in the past in 2021, and I just wanted to bring them to the board again
okay,
for some consideration. So I do have some copies that I will pass out.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'll give you this because it'll segue into the pay scale thing, if just for your consideration as well.
Thank you.
So I just tried to give a little explanation to maybe kind of like what a cost might be to do some of this stuff that's
Okay.
in there. The first one is the physical fitness annual bonus. Basically, we're required to keep our certification to be a police officer in the state of New Hampshire for every 3 years to pass a physical fitness assessment. A lot of agencies in the area offer an annual bonus if you pass that fitness test every year. And so what I proposed was a $400 a year if the officer takes and passes the fitness test at the academy standard.
Okay,
And that $400 would be awarded to that officer for doing that. And really that way I look at it is hopefully it would offset a gym membership, because everybody at my department has a gym membership somewhere, if not 2 places, and everybody partakes in physical fitness training on a regular basis.
mhm,
Does that new health insurance have some incentives like
I
this?
think they may.
Mm.
Yep.
Mhm.
I think they may. And and it could be somewhere around $200, $300, or $400 a year. I'm not quite sure what they
Eight.
are. 8.
It's 8, yeah.
Well, that's if you do everything, right?
Yeah, you can earn up to $800 in incentives, and then spouses can earn up to $400.
Yeah. So I don't know what that entails.
I don't either.
Taking a PT or physical, cholesterol screening. I'm sure it's all of those things that you have to do annually to get some of those incentives back from Cigna, which is school care.
Okay.
And gym memberships, I don't know if you guys know, they can range anywhere from $20 a month to $150 a month, depending on where you go. I know Officer Valheim goes to CrossFit, it's at least $130, $150 a month that he pays. I pay $30 a month for mine.
Yeah.
I go right now. Just an example. Like I'm paying 30, he's paying 130.
Yeah.
It's a different type of atmosphere, different type of gym. Step raises. This, we've been at pay scale, which is this other document.
Yep.
And this is a fairly competitive pay scale to what's being paid in the area. I think I passed that last year. We talked about pay scale and comparisons. Educational incentives. A lot of agencies in the area, if you have an associate's, bachelor's, master's degree, you get an annual incentive for that, and this is kind of on average with what's being given in the area. $1,000 for associates, $1,500 annually for a bachelor's, and $2,000 for a master's. Current staff, we have 2 associates and 3 bachelor's degrees.
Okay.
Offering short-term, long-term disability could be like the town offered health insurance, 85-15 split. Some contribution by both. Longevity bonus. I had no way to compare this. I hadn't had enough research or found dollar values, so
Okay.
I just put in these values. Could be a longevity pay. I'm not gonna read through everything to save you guys some time, but shift differential pay. It was just something out there for different shifts. If you worked an evening shift or overnight shift, and then I kind of gave you what an estimated annual cost might be based on current staffing and pay. What's here now, and
Okay.
then the insurance stipend. Some companies, agencies, towns offer if you don't take the town health insurance, and you get an annual stipend for not taking it. Tuition reimbursement, that goes, every college is a different price. At most places, you have to maintain a certain grade average to be compensated for tuition reimbursement. That would be for college tuition. And then we all know about the sign-on bonuses, we've been over this as well. We were fortunate so far that we did, 3 or 4 hires without any bonuses. So that's why it's at the bottom of my list right now, because we're gonna be pretty much hopefully fully staffed after probably next week.
Yeah.
Range just paid a $15,000 sign-on bonus to a certified cop to come over. And
Okay.
he's a patrolman with 7 years experience, and so it's being paid, but we've been fortunate that we've been able to attract candidates and hire people without the sign-on bonus.
Okay.
I have a question, on the, we have here lieutenant, we don't have a lieutenant right now.
No, sergeant, yeah.
And, are there any plans to get a lieutenant in the future, or are we holding that as just an open item?
So it would be a promotional for under the if we're fully staffed, then the only person that really could become the lieutenant would be the sergeant. So a promotion from sergeant to lieutenant, because we don't have any open positions to actually say hire a lieutenant, bring him in, and to be fair, we don't have the need for it. Right. So the lieutenant's position is, I was lieutenant, as you knew, and that was just the rank I had achieved. Sergeant, lieutenant, could be captain, deputy chief, assistant chief, so there's all those different ranks that could potentially be in an organization, but so that pay scale is just in there just in case we had a lieutenant, or if somebody was to get promoted from a sergeant to a lieutenant.
What are the differences in the task duties between the sergeant and lieutenant?
They would take on more of the administrative roles, might get more into the budgeting process, more into scheduling, stuff like that.
So what would be
Day-to-day
the difference
operations.
between the lieutenant and the chief?
Well, right now I do it all. Well, I think for me, I watch all the day-to-day operations, hiring, discipline. I answer calls, do investigations. I can go A to Z, you know, and then also keep up with current law changes, training evaluations. I know the list is very long, but where the sergeant really is involved with evaluations and updating on the law, some of the laws, and you know, I kind of push that down to everybody else in the agency. But I'm grooming my sergeant to learn more and to take on more and more responsibility. So maybe one day he can be promoted to lieutenant, and then if for some reason I were not to be here anymore, maybe he would be a candidate for chief.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an incentive for somebody to excel in their craft and then move up in rank, and then maybe one day, you know, Wes, our sergeant, you know, might be in a position to be promoted. But
Of these incentives, how would you rank them for most wanted?
well, I think the pay scale is probably number one. Right, it's adopting some type of pay scale. I know that's been a conversation. The guys would like to be compensated for their physical fitness. I talked to them a little bit. They thought that was really a good benefit. So, and then the educational incentive. So I just redid like the pay raise being 1, physical fitness annual bonus 2, educational incentives 3.
Would you say that educational incentives and tuition reimbursement, are they the same thing, or?
No, the educational is somebody that's already achieved their degree.
Oh,
And
this
where
is
the-
for
so-
hiring, or?
No,
Or it would
this-
just be,
For
Staff
whoever's
direction.
whoever's our full-time staff. So if I had a staff member that's working on a bachelor's degree, and one of our incentives was to pay tuition reimbursement or tuition assistance, and let's say, just to make numbers easy, let's say tuition's $1,000 a class, which is probably more than that nowadays. The town would pay their tuition if they pass with a certain grade. Right? And then a lot of towns also have like, hey, we'll do that, but we'll only do 2 classes a year, or we'll only do 3 classes a year, instead of somebody that might say, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of that. I'll do 8 classes a year.
now, are there any ranks that require some of these degrees, or?
There's no legal requirement to have a degree to be a police officer in New Hampshire. So that you don't have to have a degree. So no legal requirement. And like I said, you know, most of the guys in the agency have degrees, and it's not probably as important as maybe the fitness and the educational incentive and the step raise.
And then on the disability insurance, is there something offered with one of the associations that I assume the department is part of, or?
I'm not sure. I just know like Aflac and
Yeah, I was
then
gonna
some of
say.
the other insurance carriers offer these types of disability insurances. So I don't know of any associations, or you know, maybe Miss Eaton does know, but I don't know of any. I personally partake in Aflac, and I just pay my own premium.
Right, me too.
That's, yeah.
And so I don't want to go without some short-term disability, so I just pay it. And for example, when I left Wilton PD, they paid 100% of short-term and long-term disability, no expense to the employee. I knew that coming over, and I accepted that. So when I got here, I said, well, I need my own, at least short-term.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it. And if I had to guess, it's still my paycheck still. The town does take the money out for me.
Yeah.
I pay it.
Right.
And it's like $36 a week or something. It's
Mhm.
more than my health
Is
insurance.
it that much?
Yeah.
Cause I have it too. I didn't think it was.
But
that
I
much.
have two things on it.
Three.
I have two.
I think you and I are the only ones who have Aflac.
Yeah. But anyway, I carry it on my own at this time. Because, I said it's $35 to $40 a week out of my pay, but I need it, right? I don't. If I hurt myself outside of work and I'm gone
Yeah.
for 4 months, and I just need to have some kind of
You have a
income
concussion
protection.
and
Yeah.
you can't work from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
anyway, it's just one of those things that how can we keep the employees?
Yep.
And anything that we can offer, I think, is a benefit. So.
And now with your pay scales, is that about 2.5% or so? Is that what you did? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's annual 2.5%. But as you guys all know, with the current rate of inflation, it's not keeping up with that. But again, all this is an introduction, and all of it can be hashed out. So if anything is accepted or further conversation. So
Yeah, no, it's good timing, leading into budgets and things. Yeah.
but I think that's it for me.
Alright. Well, I don't have any questions. Lou, did you have any questions?
No, I'm all set.
Jason?
Just the obvious one, what did I miss? Being
Oh,
late.
there's just some held invoices, like you brought us up to speed on.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna address that, and then Meredith was in, and she just explaining what was in Dropbox, the breakdown for the stipends and what it would be for the last 6 months, like that whole justification for the hourly pay. Yeah. So she's gonna stop back in at 6:30 unless we don't need her to. So that was it.
That about it? Don't wanna hold you up.
Yeah, and so I'm taking now the 19th. I'm not needed,
Correct.
and so we're gonna go to the following Tuesday.
Yeah, the following Tuesday is the public hearing.
26th. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what's needed of me?
I think we'll get together with Matt
Okay.
at some point. Would you guys like us to have a pre-public hearing?
Yeah, I was gonna
meeting
ask if
here?
you wanted to do a mock presentation next week or.
I think it would
something.
be very helpful, cause I've never done a public hearing
Okay.
presentation. I can talk to Matt and,
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that'd be useful for us too.
Yeah.
Yep.
and we'll see how it goes.
Alright. Yeah, so you
Next
reach
week.
out and
Yeah. Yeah, and as of right now, nothing's on the books for Tuesday, so it works out good.
Okay.
I'll be. We'll see if we can come up with something that's good.
Awesome.
All right.
thanks, Mike.
Alright, thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Good to see you. Well, I put this in your box. That's my application and all
Oh, perfect.
the
Yeah.
medical stuff sign offs for
Yep.
the
You
next
just
week.
slide it under my door.
Alright, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks everyone, appreciate your
Cool.
time.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Mike. Uh-oh, now you're in the hot seat.
I know. It's been shaking for a half hour, it's fine.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
That's good. Yeah, don't be nervous. Pretty
They don't bite.
unpolished and. So if you don't mind, if you take a seat at the table over
Sure.
here, and then because we're live on TV right now, so
Sure.
anybody at home would be able to see you.
Not a problem at all.
Yeah. Thank you. What's your name?
Ashley?
Hi, Ashley. I'm Sean. This is Lou, Jason,
Nice to meet you.
Debbie. Thank you for showing some interest in being on the Finance Advisory Committee.
Absolutely.
So in following, what they did last week, I guess just give us a little something about yourself and what your qualifications are, like in regards to finances, and then we'll ask some questions.
Sure.
Alright.
So currently I am the tax collector and deputy finance director in Hollis. I've also worked in the tax collector's office in Manchester and Bedford. I have my bachelor's degree in social work, and I'm going back to school for my master's in accounting. So
Okay.
that's pretty much me.
How long have you lived in town?
A year and a half,
Okay.
yes. I lived in Wilton before that and Manchester before that, so it's a big difference.
Yeah.
How do you like it?
It's quiet. I'm used to about 8 Dunkin' Donuts within a 2-mile span, so this is a little different for me.
Yeah.
But I like being able to have my kids ride their bikes down the street and
Yeah.
not worry that anyone's gonna hit them or anything.
Right.
So
Steal them.
yeah.
And what is your motivator or interest in serving on the committee?
I think keeping the taxes low is very important. I have experienced a lot of people crying at my window when they come to pay their taxes because they either can't afford them, they just don't want to pay them. So I've gotten a lot of experience with different emotions from people, and I want to help keep it low if I can. And I understand that that's kind of a hard thing, but I think budgets should be transparent. And I was looking at some of the past budgets, and I have a lot of questions about those, and I think if I have a lot of questions, other people do too. And I don't think a lot of people are going to come ask. So I would like to be that person.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of where we're going with having this committee, and maybe even like as large as possible, like so that there's many different people working on the budget, and then you can, you know, get that information out like to the different people that you circulate with, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
this is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working hard over the last couple of years to add more information, like before the deliberative session, like and have more available, like what was considered, because we'll go through about 3 months of building the budget, you know, to come down to that one meeting.
Yep.
And then if I've been at those meetings and they don't have like all the information there, or have questions, or people have questions year after year, like looking for the same reports. So just finding those reports, getting them out there, and making sure, because we have it all, like it's all somewhere,
Yeah.
right?
We just need
Yeah.
to know how to access it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
No, I definitely think that's very important.
So do you have any experience in the accounting softwares or?
No. She
Not
is-
with BMSI.
I asked
no.
her.
Well, in any of them, I
Yeah.
was
Yep.
curious.
Interware, and we currently use Avatar.
I didn't know they had accounting software.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just assessing and tax collect.
And AccuFund too. I use AccuFund too. I also do payroll and accounts payable in Hollis too, so I use that.
Okay. Those numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I really like numbers. I used to ask for extra homework in high school in algebra, so
Oh.
I wasn't really the popular one, but
Yeah.
Lou, did you have any questions for Ashley?
No, not really.
Jason? Do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so. I watched the meeting last week and everyone kind of covered everything I had, so.
Alright, so.
And you still came.
And I still
I
came.
know.
I know, and I was actually really excited to do this too. It seems like a good group.
Yeah, well, it's raw.
Yeah,
It's really
good
raw.
mix of
Yeah.
people too.
So, one thing that kind of went unanswered was the commitment level,
Mm-hmm.
like for hours per week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She had emailed me about that, and I was like, I really can't be specific.
well, it's, so the meetings sometimes can go, 4 or 5 hours, which you'll need to attend.
Okay.
But then we're also open to changing how that's being conducted right now, because, something that came up in that meeting was that we're looking to shift more towards the budget committee, those responsibilities of having the meetings with the department heads ahead of time. So right now, the way that it's gonna be set up is that it'll be advisory. So if we get into the first couple meetings and it just seems like they're dragging on and long, and the budget committee feels that they could be more productive off select board, like our meeting times, and then just report on a Tuesday night of who they met with, the direction that it's going in, giving us like updates, I think we'd be open to that as well, because we're not looking to drag out the
Yeah.
select board meetings with,
In fact, I would prefer
Prefer
that
that.
method.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
But,
it just-
the new committee and a young select board, we may have to have some meetings together
Right.
to
Yeah,
get the ball
just
rolling,
updates,
But we can kind of form that
yeah,
like together. So I guess conservatively, I'd say if you look to allocate, it's probably about 10 hours a week.
Okay.
Starting out, that's gonna start kind of slow. September-ish is where we try to push like the beginnings of it.
Mm-hmm.
Our department heads aren't quite used to that yet. We tried to push the timeline a bit last year and didn't actually really get into it until like mid-October. So again, we're gonna start this whole thing. It was encouraging that Mike is already bringing these numbers in. Meredith's talking about pay rates.
yeah,
So these conversations are being had in advance of the budget season, which is a good sign that we're actually gonna be able to kind of kick things off mid-September and just have enough time like to work into it.
Sure.
And then once we get into it, maybe up to about 15 hours a week, depending on like. And then once we start working to hone it in, there's more like just focus on that.
Yeah,
So
that's not a problem.
Cool,
I get out of work at 3 every day, so
oh, nice,
that's no problem.
excellent. Yeah, well, it's pretty cool to see all the people that came
I know.
out, and I didn't realize
Really
that we had so many
impressed.
resources.
I
out
know,
there.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't think anyone was gonna, maybe 1 or 2 people were gonna volunteer, and then we had like 8, and I was like, this is great.
So thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank
Yeah.
you for
And
allowing me to come.
we're gonna deliberate over everything
Sure.
in a little bit, and then Debbie will be contacting everybody within the next week.
Yeah,
Perfect.
probably
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
It
Thank
was
you.
nice to meet you,
Nice to
actually.
meet you
Thank
too.
you.
Well, I think I've met you out in the lobby,
Probably.
and town clerk, tax collector thing.
I'm a talker, so
That's it,
probably.
me too.
Thank you so much.
Take care,
Have a good
thanks.
night.
You too.
What was Ashley's last name?
Shaw, SCHOFF.
Thank you.
Yep.
Alright, so we'll go on to old and new business. Did you wanna guide us through what you have in our packets, or?
Sure.
Alright,
So I had a couple of, I was kind of digging around in the computer and found a couple of different things that for volunteers. So I put those in there as far as, I don't know if you guys want to use them or not, or
what's that?
congratulations, you're recognized as a volunteer for the town, blah blah blah, and with the volunteer immunity law. So there's one thing, and then there's another one that they would sign saying, I've seen.
Yeah, it's got the indemnity
Yeah.
wording and
Yep.
all that. Yeah, that was really quite good.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That so each year, the budget committee would have to be like until we make it more formal.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, so it'd be like each year we would have to make sure we'd probably reach out to the people that sat the year before first, see if they were interested in serving again or not.
Right. so I thought it was kind of,
But there is no,
to my knowledge, they never used
there's
these,
no
but-
term limit then. This is, when you're appointed, you're on until you resign or you're inactive for 12 months.
Yeah.
Or do we wanna make it a renewable thing each year?
Well, I think the attractiveness of this is people aren't committing to a 3-year
Right.
block,
Mhm.
and so
Right.
you're more likely to attract candidates this way.
Yeah, and then we can at any time ask them to step down too,
Right.
right?
Yeah, cause they're volunteers.
In that, yep.
services are no longer needed.
Yeah, this is spelled out nicely. Something that wasn't addressed in times past, I think.
Yep.
And
And then
had
they
some
would have to
confusion over it.
get
Yeah.
sworn in and everything too.
Now on these, it was brought to my attention on that, which committees need to be sworn in? 'Cause
All committees need to be sworn in.
I was told that's not true.
Oh,
I
okay,
didn't have the time to go look into the
alright,
RSA's,
I'll
but
check.
I don't think it's a harmful thing to be sworn in. It
No.
kind
No.
of marks
I'd
the
rather have-
occasion
yeah.
and gives the seriousness of
Right,
Yeah.
the commitment, so I'm not opposed to it, but
Yeah.
just a thought.
so, and then this volunteer form can be used for any volunteer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And then
Well,
on
if
the
it's an
back
advi-
end,
If it's an
a
advisory committee,
recognition like the recognition letter, like, so with the finance advisory, it'd be after the budget
Yeah,
is completed,
Thank
thank
you
you,
for- yeah.
like, for your hours of service,
Yeah.
like, it'd be good to start having some type of certificates that
Appreciate-
go out
Yeah.
afterwards
That
Yeah.
is
on a
a
regular basis.
fantastic idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
What was that?
well, I was wondering, certain committees like CBA or the planning board, which are also volunteer and appointed,
Well,
Yeah,
planning
they're-
board's elected, but
yeah, that's true, you're right. Okay, never mind.
Never mind,
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm in,
Yeah.
swearing them in.
yeah,
No, I like that, and then it'd be good if this could be a part of, like, even, like, some of the rec volunteer paperwork.
that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice work, Debbie.
thank you.
Right, and were these in Dropbox?
No, cause I just kinda found them and manipulated them today,
Okay, so I asked
So
that
I will
anything
put
that
them-
we review
yep,
during the meeting, to have that put into the Dropbox, because
Yep.
each week gets its own link, right?
right,
So to
Okay.
put it into the current weeks.
Yep.
Along with the minutes, like once they're signed off on,
okay,
and then also to get in the habit of putting
Putting
that
it on the
Dropbox,
agenda.
on the agenda, like
I-
at the bottom or,
I put a, so I wouldn't forget to do it next week, I put it all in caps, Dropbox link.
okay,
So I'll just erase that and put the link,
alright, cool,
so I won't forget.
thank you.
Yes, I did forget.
And then that
about
way all of
this
this is, substantiating documentation on
Right.
what we discussed.
Yep.
And then it's available to everybody.
Yep.
All the time.
week. Alright,
That's good.
alright, so the next thing is, remember back a while ago that we put a warrant article on to get rid of the landfill capital reserve fund and the expendable landfill capital reserve fund and have that money put back into the general fund, cause we haven't touched it for 10 years. So it passed, and we did that, and put the $90,000 back into the general fund. Now it turns out we need that money. So I was trying to find different way, can we get that money back, etc. So what we can do is fill out an emergency expenditure with the DRA and explaining the situation that we did that warrant article, we put the money back in there and now we need to use some of it for, and then I have to give dollar amounts and everything for supplying the people over at Wilder for their potable water and remediation of their well. So, and then the other testing of the other sites.
Okay.
So he sent out 12 letters, I think, and he said he's only gotten 3 back so far. That people responded and said they'd let them test their wells. So,
Okay.
of those additional people. so that's, I mean, working on that.
But this 90,000, that wouldn't have been able to be used from the expendable trust that
Yeah, cause it was for the landfill.
but which,
We could have used that money.
well, it was just defined general landfill, so we could
So
have used
it
that
was-
money to,
It was the landfill
Remedy.
capital reserve fund and then from 1994, and then the expendable landfill capital reserve fund from 1999. And it totaled about $90,000.
but there was no specific function of the money, cause it seems like we have some capital reserves, but they're very pointed.
Yeah,
Like you couldn't use that money, like, you know, to make improvements on the buildings there.
right,
Mhm.
So that's where I'm
right.
curious if
Yeah,
that would have
so-
even happened, but.
Well, it's because of the landfill.
Right.
So we could have used
I
that money.
understand, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious
Yeah.
about the phraseology and what the
Right.
Well, even so, more so now, like what has occurred with the warrant article was that it was to go back into the general fund,
Right,
but we can't expend that money
except in
except for to return it
or in emergencies.
or an emergency,
right,
yeah.
so that's,
Wouldn't this constitute an unforeseen
it
Correct.
is,
emergency?
it
Yes.
is, that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, so she's working with the state now.
So I'm working with the state to fill out that form to get, I'm not gonna ask for the whole they're not gonna give us the whole 90,000 back. So I'm gonna ask for, whatever we need, like projected out to the end of the year, cause we don't know when this well is gonna be remediated. So we're gonna need the money to pay everybody up there for all the potable water that they're buying between, whatever it was, June and December. We're gonna use that as a ballpark. And then we have to install a shed with a filtration system in it. So we got quotes for plumbing and for the pad to build the shed, the mitigation system, all of that stuff.
Oh,
So
when will we be reviewing the quotes, or are we?
So the Monadnock Environmental Consultants, he's the one who got most of the quotes. He was having a hard time getting like a concrete pad quote and a plumbing quote, so Peter and I worked together and got that for him. So he's actually submitting money to get a grant. Your favorite word.
Depends
But-
on.
Yeah. So they had that. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That there's grant money out there specifically for PFAS remediation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why and then you guys voted to test another 12 to 15 to authorize up to $10,000 to test 12 to 15 other
Yeah.
waters. He sent out the letters. So part of that is, and I actually signed the thing for the grant today to submit it.
So then where would the 90,000?
So we're not gonna
Be
get,
needed.
we're not gonna ask for 90,000,
Right.
but we have to have money now to do this, cause the grant we're probably not even gonna get till next year.
Oh, is that?
So we
what
have
it
to be
is?
able to pay for it.
Okay.
So I actually asked that to the DRA and I said, so then when we get the grant money, we can pay back ourselves basically, with the grant money. Cause we've emergency moneyed this, but if we do get the grant, then we can pay that back when we get the grant.
I see.
But we have to be able to pay for it, pay for it now. So
Now,
that,
have you heard of any other towns pushing back on this?
no,
None.
you can't. There's no pushback.
You think so?
You wanna try? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a federal,
Good luck with that.
it's
Let's up our legal budget first.
Yes, yeah, right?
It's actually coming down from the feds, because it started to show up in the papers about all the towns across the United States that are in that same
But is this?
position.
But has it been shown to be landfill related, or is it
That's
air
their initial target.
pollutant
Right,
that's
well,
filtering
that's the
into the
thing.
water?
No
And that's
one's-
why. That's the only hesitation that I have on that.
Well, we'll discuss that at a later date.
Well, there
Right,
may not be
no,
any
we-
discussion at all.
There's a
but-
reason for that. We'll discuss that at a later date. Yeah, right?
Yeah, so
So-
I'm not against ensuring people have safe
Yes.
drinking water
Right.
at the landfill, but
Yeah, so that's why we're doing the emergency thing and, you know, so we can have a line item to pay for that money from.
And the irony of providing plastic bottled water.
Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, it's true.
But hey, that's how these things go,
I
right?
know. And then while I was installing the phone up at the transfer station, Steve gave me his list, which it was in the Dropbox and it's also in your packets of things he needs.
I saw that.
Did you run this
So-
by Peter yet?
He gave it to Peter already.
He gave it to Peter, I know, I dropped in and Peter, today and Peter was already gone, so I was asking him, I wanted to get his opinion on
I
what
ha-
he thought of it,
I have not talked to Peter about it,
okay?
but Peter is aware of the list.
Okay. And the reason I was wondering about Peter is because, it would be coming out of his budget.
Right.
Yep.
These are just things we need to be aware of. We're not gonna vote and say, yes, do it right now, so,
Unless chairman wants us to.
on the chairman, oh yeah, exactly.
Well, we spoke on this, you know, I think over the weekend, and it's the same thing, just to get with Peter on it and
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
What his, you know, if he can get the money for it or
Right,
find it. So yeah, so this will just be tabled until
yeah, just an FYI.
yeah.
I have not had a chance to talk to Peter today.
Mm.
Actually, I didn't even see him yesterday at all.
And your next staff meeting is next week.
Yes. So,
I mean, most of these things have merit. I have to agree with that.
Most what?
Of these items on this list have merit.
Yeah, and when I've been up there, I talked with them up there. Steve showed me these things. I looked at the wiring there, and his request there seems pretty reasonable.
Yep.
It doesn't look like a long thing of wire. There's already conduit, so a lot of these are
hopefully
small
easy
items.
fixes.
Yeah,
And
they're
are
reasonable.
would really be morale boosters for them guys.
Right,
And really, if you know, it's through his supervisor that
Right.
it should be addressed.
And
Right.
that's how
Right.
I left
Yep.
it with Steve. Is that
Yep.
should be.
But I just wanted you guys to all
Yep.
see it and
So it's on our radar now.
perfect. On the follow-up list.
Yeah.
Okay. Last but not least on my update list. Should have been first because it's the most important. So, my BSNA accounting software that I have been preaching about for months, since March. So this, what's in the packet right here is only for the accounting. It does not include the building software, because we can get that anytime. Cause, so, I've already said all the positive things that I can think of about, you know, how much it would help. I brought it up at staff meetings. All the department heads thought it was an amazing thing, because things like what happened with the police department bills not being paid, he would have known about before the year ended. He would have known, you know, so that wouldn't have happened. There's a couple of people who actually sent me emails. I talked to a couple of people on the phone about, you know, how they like it. And these are people who have used it for long term. There's 4 other towns that are in the process of implementing it now, so they're doing all the data conversion and all that kind of stuff. That all being said, because it's been so long since we talked about this, the actual implementation date right now is looking like January 2024. Yeah, so that really stinks. However, if we can lock in these prices with the $16,360 deposit, and then the rest of, the rest of the money wouldn't be due until it was actually implemented, so we could put that in the budget for 2024.
So,
Yeah.
obvious question.
Mm-hmm.
BMSI is
Mhm.
like our software version's not going to be supported after December 31st this year.
No.
Oh.
So I clarified that actually. I was asking Anna about that when I was getting training with her.
Yeah.
And she said that the payroll is totally going away. You have no choice. You have to get the new payroll as of July of next year. The other software, they came out with their upgraded new version, and there's the data conversion and everything, but she's not convinced it works right yet, so she's not encouraging people to switch over to their new thing. So she said that'll probably be the end of next year that our thing is defunct, but it was the payroll that they were talking about that was you have no choice. If you want to do payroll, you have to switch it over by July 1 of next year.
Okay.
So, but the whole rest of the accounting package is gonna be by December 31st of 2023. Gone.
Are we talking about BSMI?
BMSI, yes,
BMSI, okay.
yes. So I felt a little better after I talked to her about that, as far as the,
But we wouldn't be able to, if we were to go forward with BSNA, we wouldn't be able to implement it till 2024. So are we looking at
he said
having to upgrade?
he said 16 to 18 months. So he said by January 2024 the latest. He said if we can, get it in now, he could probably schedule it before the end of next year.
But our payroll's
he's
going
not
down in
promised.
July, unless we do the BMSI upgrade.
Correct.
Is that
Yes.
so? We have to do the
we
BMSI
have to do the
upgrade.
BMSI payroll, yeah.
By then, you're gonna be an expert at it, and you're gonna be like, "Well, I can work with it."
Okay. Then we'll just, I mean,
Yeah, that's interesting.
so
'cause-
here we are.
yeah.
So we'll do 2 more budgets with our favorite software.
Well, I don't want to double pay
Right.
for it, cause doesn't make any sense to pay for something and then not use it within months after. But if it's just a new payroll,
So I think we only have to pay for the payroll part of it. We only have to pay for the data conversion for BMSI. It's not like this huge $20,000 upgrade. It's just the payroll portion of
Well, that's good.
the
news.
account. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. I felt better after I talked to her that here we are. Now we're gonna upgrade the whole $20,000 BMSI thing, and then we'll
And-
never get BSI.
and Anna's from MRI.
No, Anna is from BMSI. I think
Anna's
she
from
invented the
BMSI.
program.
Oh, okay. So it's
She's worked
directly
there for 30
from a
years.
BMSI person that
Yes.
doesn't think it's working.
So I said that, right, yes. So she's the training person and whatever. So the sales guy, because I told her, I said, what's his name told me that the whole thing was going to be gone July 1st of next year. And she says, let me guess who told you that. And she said his name. And I was like, yeah. And she says, yeah, no, don't listen to him. I was like, okay. So she says, I am not convinced that it works the way it should work, so I am not going to recommend that at this time. I said, okay. She says, but the payroll, you have to. And it's been out, I guess the new payroll part of it has been out for over a year.
So how are we
So
how
she's-
would you pay for this? even just the first $16,000, since it wasn't budgeted for this year.
So the town administrator budget for this year, we'll have about a little more than that left over, so you come out of that line item. The savings, yeah,
Oh, for the pay
yeah,
line,
yeah. Or more, it'll have more than that left over. Or ARPA,
well, we can't, no ARPA, because it looks like I know that, you know, it doesn't look like too many checks have been written yet on the authorized money, but has this been updated recently?
that is the most updated version, yes.
Okay.
I don't have check numbers from Roger though. So
Okay,
as far as what we've allocated,
is
and
over what
highlighted
our
in
disbursement is,
it's over what we already received,
yeah,
yeah. So
Yeah.
the next payment should be coming within the next, I think 45 days.
okay. And have you gotten any type of feedback from towns around us, that,
There's a couple of emails in there.
okay,
There's 2 emails, there are two other towns that didn't get back to me, I left messages, that have, cause I wanted to get people who have used it for a long time, not people who are in the process of implementing it, you know what I mean?
mhm,
Cause there's like I said, like 3 or 4 other towns that they're working on their data conversion part of it, or, so they haven't gone live yet, so they haven't used it yet.
okay,
One town at Swansea is actually using the payroll part of it now, and he said it's awesome, but that was just the payroll part.
But there was somebody there that have been using it for 10 years now.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that they seem pretty happy with
Yep.
it.
so. And like on their website, I clicked on the testimonials on their website, but they're all from Michigan, cause that's where they're based out of. There's hundreds of them, but I think 16 pages of testimonials, but they're all from Michigan. And I wanted to get local, you know, so I called the contact that I've been dealing with, and he said, you know, this one's been using it for, you know, since whatever year, and he gave me a list of 4 or 5, so I called them all, and 2 of them got back to me, the other 2 hadn't yet. And then like all the people that I've talked to at my town administrator meetings.
And these people, since they've been working with it for 10 years, I guess, I thought the BSNA was coming out with a new version of their software.
No, that's BMSI.
But I thought BSNA also had, unless I misunderstood that it was a new version also. I knew that BMSI.
When the BSNA, when they do their upgrades, you don't even notice it.
I understood that.
They do that in the background.
But I
Yeah.
thought they were a new company,
No, they've
and
been,
that's why I was very surprised to see that.
no,
They said that they'd been using it for 10 years.
yeah, no, they've been around since 1999. They have 1,100, was it 1,100 customers? And in those, well, since in 25 years they've been around. They have 1,100 customers. In that 25 years, one customer left. They've retained the other 1,099, and then that other customer actually came back.
Okay.
And then now all of these New Hampshire towns are joining it, etc. Like around here, local, within the past couple of years.
These 2 points that, second email from Joanne Smith, the 2 points that she notes,
Mm-hmm.
are they, I have 0 zero experience with these accounting softwares, are they points of that would be concerning?
So I haven't had a chance to call, my contact person about it. So, cause I don't know either, I don't do any of the journal entries, Roger does all that, so I don't know if that would be a problem. But based on conversations with him, that contact person, and with other towns that, like I said, they had a whole bunch of questions before they actually signed on. I feel like if these were problems, that they would address them and do an upgrade, you know what I mean, an update to fix those.
Right, I took it
things.
to be, this is gonna change the way you do things in these two areas.
Right,
That you're gonna have to remember,
right,
not necessarily, that it was a fault in the program, but.
right, yeah, no,
But
no,
the
well, I
structures-
mean, when I talked to them, I said, I want everything, I want the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, I said, I don't wanna just have glowing reports, I mean, unless that's really how you feel, I wanna know everything, so that's why, you know, but I don't know if those are like serious I mean, it doesn't seem to, cause they've stayed with them for 10 years, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, and then one of them said, you have to get used to it versus BMSI, I'm like, well, I don't know anything about BMSI, so it's not gonna be a problem for me, you know,
So
but,
this second one in the is it the town of Chester,
yeah,
how long did they,
I think,
I said just during COVID.
so
Yeah.
in maybe a couple
yeah,
of years?
in the height of COVID, so probably 2020, so 2 years, yeah. And then one of the other towns was like 6 years, it was like Conway, I think. And then Northampton, I think, was the other one, but those two didn't call me back or email me or anything, I left all my contact info for them. So, here we are. Here's me begging again. I mean, I don't know. The longer we wait, the longer we're gonna have to wait to get it implemented, and the prices could go up. Obviously, they're not gonna go down. That's just my own, and that's up to you guys if you wanna wait, or if you don't wanna do it, that's fine.
Well, the numbers that I totaled up came up to 50.
50,000?
Oh, no, it's 37 something.
All we need is
Keep going on there.
all we need is
Well, no,
16.
that's the annual fee, like after, once it's implemented, like the year to year
There was
expense.
another 8,000
Yeah,
or eight,
Yeah,
yeah,
I saw that and I didn't even,
Yeah.
include that in there.
right.
and that's what that
But
was.
the numbers that before that,
So what we need today to lock in these prices and hopefully before January 1st, 2024 date is 16/3, whatever that was. Um, 16/360 to lock in the prices and to hopefully have it implemented before December 31st, 2023. So a year and a half from now. Which actually would not be bad timing
said-
because it would be fiscally,
you said
it would
20,
be
I thought they said 2024.
January 2024, he said by January
Okay.
2024, so,
That would put, sometime next year the training would begin, it would be implemented
right, yeah.
for the following.
Yeah, it would probably start like toward the end of 2023 and you know, like September maybe, cause it takes a good 3 months or so before you can get up and running.
Well, since we're gonna be working, we wanna work with the same software, I would think, for each fiscal year, right? You don't wanna go transitioning from one to the other.
Right.
In the middle.
So you can run them concurrently,
Yeah, and that would be.
which is what
would
they
be fine.
suggest.
So, I mean, do we lose anything if we, table it for 6 months?
It pushes everything out at least 6 months.
So you're not gonna get it till the end of 2024. And you're not guaranteed these prices.
Well, there is that truth about the prices, but I'm looking at, if we could put it in now, you're looking at, like you talked about, doubling, you know, a portion of your money to have both of them working in line, or being on the waiting list for one while still paying for the other one.
Well, we
Well,
still
yeah.
have to pay for the other one anyway.
Oh, hold on.
Sorry.
So, the way I'm looking at it is we're kinda at this, it's a critical point, it seems to always be critical points, but we, you know, wait or we find out something like a little bit like on the late side of things. So then if you fast forward to next year's budget, the only part that we're gonna need to upgrade for would be the payroll portion of BMSI. I'm not sure what the cost is, but we have to do that, we're gonna have to do that in July. But if locking this in now, there's no guarantees, but they're saying that they'll have this done and ready before January of 2024. So we could still go through our budget process utilizing the BMSI, because that's gonna be supported through December 31st, 2023 as well. And at the same time as training, it may be a perfect point to have both
Exactly.
going and building, so then we're building the BSNA at the same time as we're, you know, inputting into BMSI. So the timing may work out well, where at, you know, December 31st, we can just change all of the
Right.
bring all the like the information for BMSI over to BSNA, or it may already be there because
Yeah, it will be.
and we'll have trainers
Yeah.
So
like
you're
working with everybody at the same time.
Right.
So you're talking about doing a double entry, if you've got both programs running at the same time.
Right.
And that's what she said, running concurrently, like
Which you have to do anyway to verify that everything is passing over correctly.
Correct.
Yeah. So then the only problem in this scenario is the fact that the BMSI software isn't supported after December 31st, or maybe they'll extend that out if their new software upgrades aren't working right. They may, you know, continue to support it for another span of time, but we could run into that scenario of our BSNA not being ready when BMSI goes down.
Right.
But BMSI is going down, the payroll portion of it is going down on at the end
July.
of December
No, July of next
July.
year.
or July, okay?
Yeah.
We don't know about the rest of the program.
Well, because
They have-
that part is fully supported and they must be ready to roll that out, so they're gonna force
Right.
everybody
Right.
to
They're
change.
making everybody do it.
But right now, that lady that's been working with BMSI for 30 years and is a trainer for them is saying that the software isn't ready as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't foresee it being not supported like all the way through next year, and it's probably their salespeople trying to add pressure and getting people to convert,
That's exactly what
and
it is.
maybe knowing that there's this other option out there and there's more municipalities changing over to BSNA, that the salespeople are trying to, you know, get people to lock in to their
Right.
software for the next 10 years.
Right.
Because once you make these expenditures of, you know, $30, $40, $50,000, you're gonna want to use that program for a while.
Has there been a, what do you call it, like release notes for the upgrade of BMSI?
No.
Do we know what
I
it's
haven't.
going to be?
No. I haven't.
That makes
seen
it hard then, because all of a
Yeah.
sudden it could
Well,
shock you and be like,
I-
whoa, this
I
is
told
even more
her-
than BSNA,
No.
and no,
And
but it could.
I told,
I'm saying.
so she knows, cause she does training on that also, on the new version that's out. That's why she's not encouraging it, because it doesn't work right. She said it's not up to her standards. So I told her that we were looking at this program, at this software, and she said that, I said, does it do this? No. Does it do this? Can you look at that? No, department heads can't look at it. Which to me was one of the best features, that, you know, the department heads could look at, they could upload invoices. There were a couple of things that the new version, it's cloud based as opposed to DOS based, so that was encouraging, for BMSI. But the
BMSI is
yeah.
going cloud based.
yeah, they're getting rid of the old, you know, the 27 Model A.
Yeah.
So this just is one of them situations where we could jump in, grab this thing, and everything works out like you laid out.
Mhm.
Or we could jump in, grab it, and come next year, BMSI, listen to Debbie, and they implemented all these other things, and we're spending an extra $30,000 for. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's more than
So-
30,000 extra,
Well, we don't know how much that upgrade is.
or not more, less than 30,000 extra, like comparatively, because BSNA has given us hard numbers
Yeah.
and has estimated even high, like on the training aspect.
Exactly.
So there's an element of that, like that includes flights over here, like to actually put people on the ground.
Yeah.
But if they can do it remotely, if that's an option, because it
Yep.
sounds like Chester was able to do it remotely
Exactly.
successfully,
Yep.
and we can keep them in their office, we could essentially decrease that number by.
Right.
you
And
know.
he said he said because they deal only with municipalities, they know how the budget system works, so they always estimate high. So you're never gonna go over what their estimate is. He said most times you go under because you're not gonna use all those training hours.
So the two aspects of it is that this company is trying to give us a total picture, whereas our current company is just saying, hey, I don't know,
Yeah, and because they give you,
we'll see.
$250 an hour.
Yeah, that's
and-
exactly what I'm.
Right,
Yeah.
My point is
So I'm kind
that
of
could
liking
go
this,
either way.
yeah.
right.
Okay, so let's look at the price of the BSNA. Go through the cost summary pages, if you would, please. And the first one basically says that you've got one cost for cloud modules, which totals up to $74.35. Then you've got the data conversion being another $88.60. So you're looking at $16,200 there. Then the implementation, management implementation planning was an additional $7,500 plus another $14,000 for implementation and training, and you are now at $37,800.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's travel expenses and other fees of $12,000. So there's your $50,000.
Oh, alright.
Okay, and then the annual service fee after that is roughly another $7,500 plus $1,200 for hosting fees. So you're looking at $8,700.
Did I understand that implementation, training, and travel expenses are variable?
Correct.
Now, is their first payment $16,360? Is there
Up
any?
front to put your name on a list.
Yes.
Is there any back out clause on that?
I can find out.
That would make it a whole lot nicer. If for some we learn more about the BMSI, and I'm not a pusher for BMSI. I do consider, like Lou brought up a while back, is switching software it's a major thing, you know.
But we're doing it one way or another already.
But
Right.
upgrading software is
No.
a semi-major.
No,
Well,
it's-
I'm speaking from my own experience with a licensed software program that's complex. Upgrading that software is kind of a big deal.
The BMS.
Switching over to a completely different system would be a major deal for my efficiency and stuff.
Right.
Now, granted, if it's a better system, it's going to pay off in the long run because I'll be more
Correct.
efficient.
Mhm.
But it's not to be ignored. You know what I'm saying? Like
It
So-
almost sounded like the BMSI is a complete
It is.
overhaul
going-
because they're changing platforms essentially,
It's
right?
going from DOS based to cloud based, so essentially it's gonna be a whole new program. It's not gonna be
But-
what it is now.
Yeah, and that.
So they're both gonna be whole new programs. So all of us are all gonna have to start from scratch learning it. So either way.
Yeah, I don't see anything written in here that, says that the expenses could be less.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, now
I don't
that,
think anybody
how
would
that, how they
ever
snuck
com-
that.
anybody would ever commit to that.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, because I'm looking at the payment schedule, and it should be in there. He said it. It was
Yeah.
verbalized to you, and I'd imagine if we don't have anybody travel, then that 11,000, maybe that's why that's in small print and not in the total proposed. But then it's a part of the payment schedule.
Right.
Yeah. In reality, you're looking at these numbers are the minimum amount that it's gonna cost.
Mm-hmm.
No, it isn't.
Huh?
It's not the minimum, it's the maximum.
Well, you could look at it that way, though. You could look
No.
at it as the minimum amount, and then it could potentially be more.
It can't be more.
It can be more with the travel
It
expenses.
cannot be more. These prices were quoted to us, it's not gonna be more than this, that's what I just said.
But it does say
Because
right there, days quoted are estimates. You are billed for actual days
Right.
used.
Meaning if if you build for 5 days and they only come for 3, then you're only gonna get billed for 3, they're not gonna bill you for the 5.
Sure, but
But
if
it
if
goes
it's
the
gonna
other
take
way.
7 days, they're gonna bill you for 7.
Yeah, that's how I would read that.
So I'll reiterate what I said a few minutes ago. Because they always deal and only deal with municipalities and they know how budgets work, they estimate on the high side. They have never gone over their estimates.
Okay.
No town who has ever switched over to BSNA with their quote in their hand has ever paid more than what is on that piece of paper. Many, many towns have paid less because they don't need all of the days of training or whatever. They didn't have to fly as many times or however they did it. So it was less than what they quoted. No one has ever paid more than what's on this piece, than what they were quoted.
Okay, on page 3 of 6, it says implementation and training.
Yep.
$1,000 a day. Days quoted are estimates. You are billed for actual days used.
Right. So if you're billed for 7 days for personnel management modules and they only come for 5 days, then you're only billed for 5 days. They're not gonna, you would have to authorize over and above if you needed more than 7 days. Sometimes they can do these concurrently, so the 5 days of financial and the 5 days of personnel could be at the same time.
It does not say here that these are the maximum amounts. It just says days quoted are estimates. you are billed for actual days used. So,
And that's,
So
this is
I
their,
guess you
it
could
is their
take
good
that
faith
either way,
estimate.
I'm going by what he told me,
Mm-hmm.
so
That's all it is.
If you
It's a
go
good faith
over the-
estimate.
if you go over this, you would have to sign like a change order authorizing them to go over this.
Which is encouraging because with the other company we got nothing. Like
Right.
it was just sort of like the rates.
Right,
And that was
this is
it,
how much we
with
charge
no-
for travel, this is how much we
Because
charge
they
per
don't-
hour,
They don't currently know, and it sounds like their trainer again isn't, you know, sold on her own software, like the new
Right.
software. So it's just, this is one of these decisions. So Debbie, if you could just like, I know like our questions may be redundant or we're going over the same point, but we're seriously considering this, and this is a major change.
yeah,
And something that's going to impact this office potentially right away next, like at the end, like next budget cycle.
right,
You know, it could be disaster or success.
yeah.
And then on for the next 10 years, so just try to
So what
keep
do you
that in
want?
mind.
What do you want?
A deep breath and hang in there with us.
So what do I need to do?
Nope. We're just taking a minute to consider everything, and you know, Lou asked if we
Yeah,
should hold off 6 months.
I was just throwing that out. I-
No, I know. and
No motion was made.
No, I know. So what? And you don't need a motion for that. We could just table this right now. But the point that I was getting to was that I'm feeling like 6 months is more or less a death sentence to this because we're going to be forced into
yes,
BMSI
yes,
You think so?
yes,
potentially.
potentially.
Because who knows? Maybe all of their other upgrades will go smoothly, and they'll be 6 months ahead of schedule, and they'll call us in April and say, "Hey, are you still looking at this? Like, I have people that could be there
Right,
tomorrow." Like, you don't know. Like,
Right.
there is no definites, but with the current projections, it's just. So then you're kind of playing that game of.
right.
Yeah.
So right now they're 14 to 18 months out. Or 16 to 18, sorry. They're
Yep.
16 to 18 months out for installation. So. We wait 6 months, it's gonna be 16 to 18 months from then. And we won't be guaranteed
It
those,
depends on what their
those
customer base
prices.
is doing at that point.
possibly,
If if everybody is really jumping on that bandwagon and they get in on it early, then maybe by the time.
well, we don't know what their business is gonna do, so neither
Right.
one of us can say how long it's gonna take.
That's
So
right.
it could be, my guess is that we're not gonna call them and they say, oh yeah, we'll be right out. That's not gonna happen,
No, I
because
totally agree with
everybody's
that.
jumping ship.
Yeah. But that
So-
doesn't mean it's going to move out, exponentially, further
Right.
out.
Well, look what happened with the truck waiting a couple of weeks. How much more money we had to pay or the cat loader.
Mm-hmm.
So we wait longer on this, we're gonna have to pay more money, but,
That's true.
and,
Well, I don't
and-
know if
and
that's
wait
necessarily
longer.
true. That's a reasonable assumption, but not necessarily true. Nobody knows what the future's holding.
Airline
That is
tickets could be
true.
$50 again.
yeah, right, wouldn't that be nice?
Gas will be
As-
buck
as an
97.
Yeah,
Meredith, do you have to
2024.
leave again at 6:30?
I can, as soon as you're done with this, I can do that and then
Okay.
stop by. I'm just watching the storm.
oh yeah, what's going on with that?
Well, I'm just watching it so that if the power goes out somewhere or something or a tree comes down on wires,
Is it storming now?
it's coming this way. I'm watching
So-
how dark it's getting.
So
So Jason,
16,000 is what we're looking to get this ball rolling.
Yes,
Correct.
yeah, and then even with Meredith, I guess that sheet was in the Dropbox, and she was just coming in to answer any questions on that sheet. So did you have some? Did you have any questions like on that justification sheet, or you don't have to get into them? It was just a yes or no.
Yeah,
Oh, you do?
yeah. I
Okay.
would like to discuss it.
Okay.
So,
All right. So we're not quite ready to do that yet.
It's
but,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so 16, Debbie says that we'll have that from the administrator pay, like salary line. left at
That's
the end
our
of the year.
favorite thing, huh?
I don't.
Well, you
I
have to
don't-
do it, you
yeah, I
gotta do
don't
it.
really
Shuffling
like,
budget.
Yeah, I really don't like doing it. But you know, at this point, we're now preparing for the future and at least having this conversation. This conversation should have been had, yes, a year or 2 years ago, but it wasn't.
Mhm.
So
I'm just looking at our lines.
Yeah.
What is selectmen all buyouts on the
So
bottom?
that was the money for the potential health insurance buyouts.
if
Like
people
if
didn't
people
get
didn't
it.
take it. Remember, we just sort of threw it there, and then we haven't even put that into the handbook yet.
Yeah.
So, because we haven't had our follow-up handbook discussion. So that money, is there, but I would really stay away from that line.
No, I get it, but
Yeah, because of the pretense by which it was put.
another one of them decisions of
So I guess I'm in favor of making the commitment. It would be nice, that point that you brought up of the backing out, like if we were able to do so.
You
No.
can make that a condition.
technically, well, I guess it would depend on the contract that they give.
Mhm.
If it was binding for the rest of it, how did they put that? What was their payment schedule?
Was it page 3 or 4? Yeah, page 4.
And then the rest of money we could budget in for 2023 or 2024.
Mhm.
So if they're 6 months thing, I mean, no, you said 16 to 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we give them a payment and they're like, oh wait, we can come tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll have to give an additional $8,635.
Yeah,
So we need to be prepared to this year be paying not just 16,360, but 25,000. Roughly, would you agree with that?
Unfortunately, he said there is no possible way, unless everyone on their list canceled, that they would be able to get here before the end of 2022.
I'm just going with what
Yeah.
we're gonna be signing,
Right.
that's all.
and really, well, if that's what the gentleman said, then
Right, and that's what we'd expect, but
Yeah.
we get emergent things
yeah,
don't always do what we expect.
Yeah.
True.
You know what I mean? And they
That's
might
true.
be heading to, well, I don't know, Sharon to do something, and then Sharon backs out, and they're like, oh, we had all this time slot. Hey, New Ipswich, we're coming over.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
seems plausible.
yeah,
That would be
completely.
amazing.
Is there
I would love that.
money in the budget? 25,000. You said we're using how much of the?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, and even just by memory,
All the money we're saving and,
health
In
insurance.
this one?
yeah.
'Cause there's the health insurance savings. I can't remember exactly what that was, but we were only going to utilize a small amount
Right.
of that.
Right,
We
Yeah.
could,
yeah,
But that was gonna go,
Yeah, we
all
had-
that savings was gonna go into
we,
reducing it for the following year, wasn't it?
no,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
can't,
ideally.
ideally, but,
Yeah.
yeah,
the thing is with that is we shouldn't call it savings, we should call it
Yeah.
an over budgeted
Right.
line,
Yeah.
but
well, and plus
Whatever,
we have
just-
$90,000 that we added to the general fund for,
I know there's that.
But yeah, that money's gonna be committed real fast.
So,
anyways. So the other thing, it will cut down the accounting job hour-wise. We'll be spending a lot more money.
Is
a lot
is that in our
less.
contract?
What?
That it'll cut down our accounting
No,
line?
but it will, because they can check their own stuff. They don't have to keep bothering Roger, hey, can you stop what you're doing and see if this invoice is paid, why isn't it paid, let me look into it.
So does that mean
Probably
that
save
Roger,
him a few hours a week,
does that mean that Roger's going to, cost less?
yes,
How?
he's gonna retire. That's what he
Well,
said.
Whoever replaces
It's
him,
gonna be fully
Yeah.
automated.
meaning that it's
So,
still a 35 or 40 hour a week
no,
job, whatever, and
no,
if there's less work to do, the person's still here.
no, if Roger retires, it'll probably go, I'm thinking, a part-time job.
I'd like to just ask one of the department heads,
Boom,
does this kind of a shift excite you to have full access to?
I'm not a full-time employee, so that just
No,
means
but
that this,
as a
that
department
just
head,
means this stipend department head is gonna have to do more of my own work.
huh?
as
Cause
a,
I'll be checking my own bills and all that kinda stuff, right? Instead
Instead
Roger
of
doing it.
driving over here and coming to ask Roger to do it.
No.
And waiting for him to find the answer.
Would be nice to have them paid, so maybe that's how I'll leave it.
so,
So
yeah, I was
But-
just
I
trying
don't
to.
know, this
So-
is the first I've heard of it, so
No,
I'll
it
be
is
able to
not.
go on.
We brought it up at the staff meeting a long time, because we started talking about it in like
Yes,
March
but
or
as far as
April.
being able to go in and check my own,
Yes, no,
And
that was
from what
part,
I
that was
enter my own billing and all that.
From what I
upload
understood,
your own
Oh, oh.
invoices.
Yeah, so that's my question, my question is then, that's throwing work back on other people that now their work is gonna get more as his gets less. So right now, I sign them, I bring them up here and Roger pays them and loads them and everything, now that you're saying the department heads are gonna do that, that's an increased workload for them.
No.
And if they could send it then, you know,
Was I at a different meeting? I'm kinda confused.
Maybe I wasn't at the meeting.
well,
Maybe you weren't.
I'm just asking the question,
So,
if I upload them, then,
you don't have to, you can, the ability is there, instead of dropping them off at the office, you can scan it and upload it right into your department. You can look in real time to see if it's paid or not. So you can make a phone call to say, hey, why isn't this paid?
to who?
Roger.
Oh.
If it's not paid. Or you can send him a note in the thing, why isn't this paid? But yeah, so when
And
at
instead
the
of waiting for paper copies, your budget would be live to you,
yeah,
always, 24 hours a day.
so you can
but
check.
it's read only. You're not able to go in there and mess with what
Manipulate.
Roger did.
So that's
Can't
what I'm
manip-
saying, is as a
you can't
stipend
manipulate.
employee, that's more work for me, than maybe for some other department head it's not, cause they're a full-time employee.
How is it? You can just check it whenever you want.
That's time, right?
Isn't it time
Well,
to
right.
drive over and ask him and wait for him to find the answer?
I just assume they get paid until I get a notice that says they haven't been paid.
if the application,
So you have the
If-
ability to check if you want to. You don't have to do it. It's
So you
there.
could do everything the same as you do now and just keep your
Right.
eyes closed
Which,
and
Right.
what is what Lou asked, because then that means that person's, if all of us chose to do that, then Roger's job wouldn't change, right? Cause you were talking about reducing Roger's
yeah.
job by us then taking on
Yeah.
that responsibility.
Well, the other department heads were all for it.
I'm sure that they probably will,
Because-
but they're all full-time salary.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
what's
And maybe the fire department will be too, who knows?
what's stopping them from making a copy of or scanning their current bill and sending that to Roger?
Because Roger likes paper.
He can print it out. He still has a copy of the paper. I mean, there is no difference between somebody sending an email with an invoice that needs to be paid now
Mm-hmm.
versus having the application where you still have to scan the invoice and it gets sent through the application to
So
the
that,
accountant.
well, because a lot of times invoices get lost. Now, it'll never get lost because it's there. It has the date you uploaded it. But that wasn't the most attractive part of it for the department heads. The most attractive part of it was if you wanted to go look in and see if your invoice was paid or not in 2021, and it wasn't, and then you have to, now it's taken out of your 2022 budget, like Mike would have known that in 2021, so he could have said, hey, why isn't this paid yet? And Roger could have said, hey, cause I don't have a W-9. Alright, I'll get right on that, and it would have been paid out of the correct budget. You know what I mean? And Meredith's had the same problems, whatever, so
Yeah.
But that's a lot.
it's live, but it's live, they
But
can,
I'm still
they
saying
can go
somebody
in.
still has to do that work, and it sounds like it's going to be the department heads now, as opposed to Roger. It's not making the workload go away, it's making the workload go somewhere else, is all I'm saying.
Mhm.
So it's
I think that's
reducing Roger's
inaccurate.
But yeah,
hours, but
yeah,
it's
no, I agree.
making the
But if-
workload,
Right.
and it may still be
I don't,
faster.
I don't see that it's taking it away, cause he still has to input it.
He's still
I'm not-
inputting the check, but he's
That's
not
what I mean,
stopping what
like,
he's doing to investigate why that bill from October of 2021 didn't get paid. Now he
Yeah.
has to stop what he's doing, go down in the basement, find the records from
Yeah, but that-
2021, come
And then
back
keep my mouth
upstairs.
shut on that one.
Yeah.
That's a poor system, but that,
Yeah,
There
but
are
so
better
this
systems.
new accounting system, we
Yes.
could even, so say, hey, you wanna just drop off the paper, it could be a part of Roger's job to scan it and make sure it goes into
Right,
the digital form, and then you'd be able to, again, you, like as a department head, would be able to see that receipt or invoice and whether or not it's been paid. So there wouldn't be this like question, so if you get a phone call, you could see that it's not paid and then skip that whole scenario, like that whole step.
right,
And more so, I believe you had also said that it's going to eliminate the paper time cards, because
Mhm.
people will be able to track their time like with their phone, like an app on their phone.
yeah,
I-
that's nice.
I heard some negatives on that,
Yeah,
that people don't necessarily wanna do that. And that becomes a whole lot more work for a department head to be monitoring all of these.
And then
Just-
going in and approving them as opposed to just.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean,
I just think to say that the workload will be reduced is just it's more of a shell game, it's just reshuffling the workload.
Mhm.
Is all.
I don't think that's
Not a
entirely
shell game, that's the
inaccurate.
wrong way to say it.
Right, it's not a scam thing, but
No, I'm not
For
saying
us.
it's a scam thing, but I think to say Roger's position will go down to half-time or whatever, the workload still has to be there, somebody still has to scan those in, somebody still has to check the time cards.
yeah, and I think
Isn't
we
that
don't go forward
And we don't know.
assuming
Yeah.
that
Right,
now our
right.
accountant's job is
Right.
gonna be cut.
Right.
We wouldn't do that, but
Yeah.
it's
no,
It-
it's a possibility.
from what she's heard from the salespeople, it's
Yeah.
a possibility.
In other towns.
And this
I can
is
tell you
what
two things
concerns
about
me.
mm.
When I get a
Yeah.
report, I wanna be able to
Right.
have this,
So-
and I'm sure it's available on that. It'd
So,
be in a different
and you can
format,
have
but-
access to that 24/7, to the
Yeah.
whole budget. You can't manipulate any numbers, but you can
Yeah.
look at it, so
Yeah.
you don't have to have a 2-month-old report printed out or whatever. You know what I mean? You can look at it
Yeah,
in real time, you
And
can
when
bring
I
it up
asked-
on your
Yeah.
iPad in real time.
for me, I was surprised when I asked Roger for a copy of it. It didn't take him long at all.
No, cause he knows how to run that
Yeah.
stupid report.
Yeah, so he.
I
popped
do
up
now.
And
He
in
explained
which
it to
case,
me.
if he can go ahead and get that document from that report, he can email it to you also.
No, he can't.
No, he can't, why?
He can,
Well,
but he can't.
could,
He can, but he
The
can't.
possibility is there.
Yes, yes.
However, it may be something that's not.
I'm glad I'm
Yeah.
facing away from it.
Yeah.
See what I
So-
mean about when you asked me,
So, anyways, I don't know.
the question about being selected?
But yeah, you can always print stuff off on PDF, save it as an attachment,
Right.
and email it off as.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
But
But a lot
Is
of people
this
like
stuff-
paper.
is this gonna make our lives happier?
The reports are a lot cleaner too.
So, again, I'm all about this thing.
Yes,
So
Much.
how does this line item look?
much cleaner.
No, but where's our accounting? And how does it look after we pay for the implementation of it?
Yeah.
In comparison,
What do you mean, how does it look?
Jim,
How does the
that's
piece
a
of
good point,
paper look?
because Jim had a concern of, with the BMSI, that it was very complicated to set up the final documents for the annual report.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen what that would look like under the BSNA.
we could look, I should pull it up online, cause we have a town here that's been using it for 10 years.
Yep.
So we could pull that up
Look
right
at
now,
that.
but my point
Their
was,
town report.
the annual cost for the
Right.
next 30 years,
Right,
are we paying 10 grand more a year?
no,
Or
No.
is it like 2,000?
It's
Or
about
is it?
20, I think we figured it to 2,200
And that was based
a
on
year,
the old BMSI. We
Correct.
don't know what the upgraded
Correct.
annual fees are gonna be. So that's kind of a non-issue, you think?
Well,
They
I-
said that the
One of
annual was
those
gonna be
grains
what,
of
9,000,
sand. Right,
starting
that-
out at 9,000.
Enough in the jar and,
for what?
Something
Tell
close.
me about it, huh?
yeah.
On that
Yeah,
document,
it's like 8,200, I think,
okay, it was something now,
yeah,
but you know,
oh, is that funded?
you know that's not gonna go down.
I'll know if there's a call, so.
Annual services was 76.
You getting a call?
No, I said I'll know.
Plus the
Oh,
hosting
okay.
fees of, so that'd be $8,700. A year.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to,
I don't know.
I wanna say the difference was like, I can't say, I'll be lying. Sadly, it's not broken out in there, cause we pay
I
a little.
don't see it.
If in your heart you really think that it's going to be better, and that's what you're hoping for, then you should vote for it.
Well, I'm not sure myself. I know that Debbie's put a lot of time into this, and the majority of her peers seem to believe in this software, and there has been, numerous, positive points of feedback for it. In one way or another, we're going to have to pay for new software, whether it be this or the BMSI. Right now, we're looking at a proposal from a company that people are utilizing and having great success with, and feel strongly about it. That it's a solid program. And she just within the last week had a phone call with BMSI trainer that's been with the company for 30 years that says that the new software isn't good
Yeah,
and would not recommend it.
Well,
So
it
that's
says
kind
it's
of what-
unfinished.
no, it's finished.
It's supposed to be finished,
It's finished.
They're
People
rolling
are
it
using,
out,
people
yeah.
are using it.
but it's not working.
It's not working
It's
the
flawed.
way it should, it's flawed, so she said she is not recommending it at this time. It needs
Which
a
means
lot-
that they're going to
it
be
needs
working
a
on
lot
it
of bug fixes,
to fix those bugs.
correct.
So that's what I'm weighing on is just positive and negative. 'Cause right now it's leaning towards who knows, maybe BMSI can't ever fix the bugs and everybody is gonna be stuck with it, and who knows.
I find it interesting that most of the people that are switching from BMSI.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you guys.
So at this moment, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the conversion to BSNA. And we'll do this incrementally. So like the first payment of $16,360 to be made to lock in the contract, with the remaining payments to be budgeted for, in next year's budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
None here.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining?
No, opposed.
Opposed? This motion passes, 2 to 1.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah,
I will check out the backup clause
Thank you.
before I sign anything.
Yep.
Do you guys wanna sign it, or do you want me to sign it? But
I'd like to,
I will let you see it, obviously, before I touch anything,
okay, yep, yeah, just do that.
and then that way you guys can.
Alright,
We didn't specify where them funds are coming from.
no,
We
no,
just,
yeah. That's gonna come from that, like our selectmen's budget essentially anyways, like that portion,
yeah.
we'll keep it in there one way or another, and then I wanna be sure just to let, if there's a way we can asterisk it of why it was over, like a line might be over, like overspent, or
Mm-hmm.
so that they'll understand. Alright,
I'm just going out for a drink of water.
okay. So let's hang on a minute while he comes back.
Did, in your notes, how was that motion? Was there a number put on there?
Or, yeah, the 16,000,
Oh,
for the first payment, and then the remaining 2 payments will be budgeted in next year's budget.
so we're not on the hook for 25,000 this year.
No,
No,
Cause we didn't.
I don't anticipate,
It would- it
that'd
would
be
require
huge, but,
another-
and then we'll come back to it. And we'll hear about it,
Alright, well,
instead of being in the dark.
there we go.
Alright,
alright,
Okay,
Meredith,
so we're back to Meredith now?
yes,
Hi Meredith.
Hi, I'm back.
And I'm sorry for not being here when you were here.
It's alright, I could have stayed except for the fact that I had set up 2 appointments for foster care stuff, so. Since I was in uniform, I figured I might as well get them done. And actually, they went pretty fast, so.
Good.
Repeat customers, which is always good.
yeah.
So, Jason, what's your question then?
Well, when we discussed last week, the downside of the stipend was that we pay it whether people, no matter how active they are.
Yeah.
My concerns on going to an hourly rate is the door is cracked open. And this budget line is gonna exponentially increase annually because just the nature of it. With stipends, it provides a very predictable and budgetable item. These are my thoughts.
Right, no, I'm listening.
That's easily put out, and I think most people in town, I said this previously, and it's a fault for whatever, they feel like we have a volunteer fire department. It could be argued with the amount of money that they're paid. That's true. This removes any, it would be hard to call it a volunteer.
They're not volunteer now. call,
I understand,
And they would
but
still
the
be
perception
called.
is there.
but they would still be called.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're considered on call, which means I'm sitting having dinner and the tones go off and
Yeah.
you go, and the
Yeah.
stipend has always been even if I decide not to go, and, cause I don't feel like going, I'm still gonna get paid, and that just doesn't seem right to the people that are making the commitment to go, so trying to make it more equitable. The way it is now, it's not fair, and I hate that word. But it's also, if we went to what the selectmen had approved a few years ago, that's not approved by the labor board, because it can't be based on merit, so that's not acceptable. So the only other way, I suppose the only other way you would do it would be to set a benchmark that would say you have to make a ton of calls and meetings and stuff, and then you would get your full, but then we get into, and I guess times have changed a little bit, and I'm gonna tell you that I kinda hear what you're saying, cause I have a little bit of concern on part of it. And my concern is, and in the meeting last week after coming here, I then went down to the fire department and had our business meeting, and I expressed to them that you can abuse this, and if you abuse it, then the selectmen are gonna take a serious look at coming up with something else. Meaning that, hey, now I can go and just check in, the truck's already gone, I can go sign in and put my name in and make my $18. And so the potential is there for people to abuse it. Some of it's gonna fall on the honor system that says I wasn't truly there, I shouldn't get paid. And the other part of it's going to come on in this check and balance with the incident commander, where he's looking to say, yes, that person was there, yes, that person was there, yes, that person was there. I did look at intentionally this weekend, the calls, cause we had 4 calls this weekend, to see if we saw all of a sudden 20 people coming to an alarm activation cause they know they're gonna make $18 or $19. It didn't reflect that. It reflected the first alarm activation had 3, I think, or maybe it had 6. There were 4 calls, and one of them had 3, one of them had 9, and the other 2 had 5 and 6. So we seem to be running right around 5 or 6 people, unless we have a building fire. I was trying to think of a better way to manage that, and I would think that if we see that it is being abused, i.e. people are just coming and saying, hey, I can make $18 to stand around with my hands in my pockets, then we looked at going to shifts that says, you divide them into crews, and your crew is on this week, and if your crew's not on, you don't come unless it's a building fire or something like that. So you could, if that's the worst case scenario that I see, that people are abusing it, if it's a handful of people, you sit and talk to them and say, hey, this is not acceptable, this is the 3rd time that you have signed in for a call that you didn't need to be on, or you're not medical, you can't come to medical calls, that kind of stuff. But if it becomes systemic, I think you could say, I think you should say, we need to look at on-call shifts that says, and when I first joined the fire department, there was an on-call, there was a group 1 and a group 2, and my week was group 1's week, and then I was off group 2's week, and unless it was something big, I didn't go. You could control it that way if you needed to. So you'd have a better understanding, I think, of what your personnel and your staffing would be.
Which even if we go to this system, you'd still have to manage that budget. So if you're going over, like if it looks like you're going over, you're gonna have to come up with something because there's no money there.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And my
That's
My
management
concern-
anyway.
And I get it. I don't know what the answer is because we haven't gone through it. So I don't know whether we do. I don't know.
Yeah, and my concern isn't that the guys are gonna be trying to rip us off. I know you didn't use them words. But what it is like I said, the door's open, and now next year, it's like, hey, non-certified firefighters can make $15 an hour at Dunkin's. I mean, seriously? That's all we're gonna pay them is $12?
No,
And so that, but wait,
I know.
so then on the budget, on the budget then, there's real justification every year to be increasing this.
Oh, I see what you're
And-
saying.
So, and I wouldn't argue with that kind of justification. So then I look at the structure of the pay, going with stipends, in my mind, is very predictable. And when it's called out, hey, we're not giving a big enough stipend, it's easily, I mean, instantly you can pop it in your calculator and say, all right, well, next year it's going to be this much. Where with these,
So
it's
a couple
kind of flow.
yeah, a couple points on the stipend aspect. They brought up, it's a good point, but right now, there's essentially money going toward like the people that aren't actively going on calls. So the people that are going to calls are potentially making less than the $12 an hour here,
Right.
you know, or the 15 or the 16. Like that money's being chewed up. Maybe they go to training or something. So yeah, and if you really put it into perspective, you know, the time for someone at, you know, midnight, you know, it's not all at midnight, but you know, like to go out on a weekend or in the evening or even during the day to respond to these calls, they could spend more in fuel than what, you know, they're being reimbursed through stipends like annually if they kept track of it.
Well,
So-
that's an if.
Yeah, no, and it's,
Yeah.
so it's very real, like it's all like a little bit too low, so yeah, like the stipends probably would need to be adjusted if we could keep that stipend system, but what I'm hearing now is that we cannot keep the current merit-based stipend system.
Well,
And-
you could if you adjusted it.
You can't do merit at all.
No, but what you can do is you can take the people who are not coming off of the stipend roll and
You
tell
can't.
them,
You can't unless you have specific guidelines for why you are taking them off. So
if they're not participating, you can't take it off.
nope, because that becomes merit.
What-
So you
what-
would, I tried to get an answer out of the labor board on what specifically they would say was good or acceptable. And his answer was, well, I really can't tell you exactly, but you would have to set, and what he used the word was a membership. So this is what constitutes a membership of the New Ipswich Fire Department. And that membership would have to be whatever, and then you would get, if you met that benchmark, you would get all of your stipend. If you don't meet that benchmark, you wouldn't get anything. But as soon as you throw in any variant from that, so if you as selectmen said, well, you have to make 36 meetings in a year in order to get your stipend, really, if you guys make one meeting in a year, you would still get your stipend. That's the way it has to be. Can't be merit based on the fact that you attend the meetings or don't attend the meetings. And that's where that system that we had in place before violates the labor laws.
So,
Is because it's like a gradient curve that says you get a percentage of your stipend based on the percentage of your participation. And that's against the labor laws.
so then once a person becomes a firefighter in New Ipswich, there is no legal way to undo that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, you could tell them, we have done it with people who don't participate at all.
That's
On
what
an
that's
annual
what I was getting
basis.
at with the stipend
Yeah,
thing. That shouldn't. So
but
Yeah,
that's
that's all.
thank you very much for playing, we really can't use you, please turn in your stuff. You have 60 days to make a determination whether you wanna stay or
yeah,
not. But then anybody who chooses to stay would get their stipend. If they say, fine, pound sand, I'm gonna stay anyway. Or I might come to one call, or, you know, some people, and this isn't most people, but there are some people that only come for the big calls. And you know what? We need them on the big calls. There's other people that come on every single call. There's some people that can't come in the daytime. There's some people that can't come at night. So as soon as you start throwing those numbers in there that says you have to make a percentage of calls or whatever, then you violate that stipend.
and I get
And
that.
it also
but
has to be a percentage, The other piece of it that the labor guy said is, it has to stay low enough, so, to what you were saying about upping the stipend, it has to stay, and I don't know if I have the number, but it has to be a certain percentage below, what the average firefighter would make. Department of Labor uses words like nominal fee. It must be less than 20% of what a full-time person would make in the area doing the same job. So we can't pay $50 an hour we can't pay $50 times however much and set that as a stipend, because it has to, under the labor laws, it has to be a true stipend, which is only 20%, less than 20% of what a full-time firefighter would make. So that plays in there too. So if, with the price of gas, if you're looking at, hey, we're gonna give everybody a $2,000 a year raise, then you've gotta be careful to balance and stay under that 20% of what a full-time firefighter would make. It's a bucket load of work.
So as
And Jason, one of the things that I got from you was that you were concerned that if they went over to an hourly basis, that there might be a chance of that being worked around somewhat to make more money or whatever. And in my opinion, that becomes a management problem. And the managers are the people that are in charge on site watching over it. That's their department.
Which is
And
why
so-
we've got that check and balance in here where they've got a sign-in sheet, and then the incident commander for that call is going to say, yes, that person was here, he stayed till the end, no, you really didn't stay, so there is a check and balance in that. But I understand what you're saying too, because you're saying, okay, I'm gonna say $12 for uncertified, and next year I'm gonna say, well, they can go to Amazon and make 15, we really should pay them 15.
Yeah, and
I
in
mean,
my
that's
mind, that's
always
a
gonna be true.
justifiable increase, right? Once you go down this road, you opened it up to justifiable increases.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I've always, and I have not been, as you well know, at all,
Haven't seen
neither
it.
have I been liaison to the fire department or participated at all in any of the firefighters' functions. But my understanding has been the people who do this just have a passion for firefighting, and that's why they do it for almost nothing. Just like the selectmen just have a passion for being on live TV every Tuesday, so that's why we do it. And so, but if
And I think
that's not the case, then I guess we have to keep it. Not I guess we want to keep a fire department.
you actually have to, under state law.
Well, it doesn't even matter that we have to. We want
No, I know.
to.
And that's why when I set those hourly rates, because I pulled Peterborough's rates, and I pulled, so Peterborough's rates are anywhere from, their lowest is $16.54 an hour, and their maximum is, I shouldn't say this out loud, 39 for a fire rescue captain at the maximum, because they do a graded range. And then I took Mason, which is on the low side, and then everybody else kind of fell somewhere in the middle. And then we just set like what was reasonable without being extravagant, without also being a kick in the teeth that says you should only make $10 an hour. I think we tried to keep it that yes, the passion is there, but the people that have that passion, that get out of bed at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning, should be compensated for that, as opposed to the person that says, oh, it's just an alarm activation, I don't really care, and I know I'm gonna get my stipend anyway. So it's rewarding the people and compensating the people that have that passion, and not allowing the people that don't have the passion to ride on their coattails. Some people just want a license plate and a front row seat at a fire, and that's the only time you see them. They don't wanna do training, they don't wanna do anything, but they will show up and they'll jump in because the fire looks good or whatever, and we don't have very many of those at all anymore. But when I first got on, there were people that just wanted to drive around with license plate and red light, and they very rarely came to fires, and yet to give them their stipend just because, that, I think society has changed. And the other thing you have to look at is, there are some people, so like if Ben Hatcher, to throw him under the bus, if Ben Hatcher, if there's a call in the daytime, Ben will drop everything he has, and that may be that then he's not working for those 2 hours haying or whatever he's doing, and then that either means he's gotta stay later and take time away from his family. There's some compensation for that, or people that have to leave their job, that their job makes them punch out. So are they gonna punch out when we truly need them, because they know they're not gonna get anything extra, or are they just gonna blow it off? I think times have kinda changed, so the passion is still there, and there are still the guys that are gonna go at 3 o'clock in the morning, no matter what it is, and I think those people should be compensated for it as opposed to not, because they could very easily say, forget it, I'm not going.
And that's what my question is, would they? And that's what I asked last week,
Would they
and it
not?
was kind of tongue in cheek, that if we were to continue on with the stipends, just because it gives us stability in budgeting, would we have the seats filled with the guys? Is this coming from the state, or is it coming from the firefighters?
The firefighters want to go to an hourly rate, the state is pushing us in that direction. Does that make sense? Because our system is broken. I don't know, I don't have an answer for you on what the system
Like your
would
meeting last
look like.
week, that must have,
Say that again?
your meeting last week.
Yeah. Well,
Must
and
have
that,
had
I
a
did
lot of
pose that,
discussion.
I did pose that question to them, I said, the selectmen asked me if you guys are for this or against it, and the consensus was that those that come are for it, and the other people weren't even there, so it didn't really matter. And they were for the fact that they were going to get compensated for the job that they were doing, as opposed to the fact that everybody was gonna get their stipend no matter what. And I think, I mean, if you look at Peter has to do a budget for salaries, and Mike has to do a budget for salaries, and they're not stipend, so there must be a way. And when I gave you when I sent the email, our call volume over the last few years has been anywhere from 175, I think I said, up to 210 or 225. So we've been pretty much in that range. So I took 200 calls and based it on 5 or 6 people, and that's how I came up with how much we would have spent in the last 6 months. Mike must have to do it for his budget every single year. I think I would have to do the same thing. You know, here's my salary budget for this year, and
But their hours are set, yours are,
well, not necessarily. Well,
unless
what
you-
about okay, take Peter's guys then, plowing.
oh yeah, then
Have
they
a
get
lot
over,
of snow,
right, then they get overtime.
then they get
Yeah.
overtime. These
Right.
guys aren't getting overtime, they're just getting paid
Right.
different amounts. And
Right. I
think
was just saying that
yeah.
budget wise, that
Yeah.
it's easier for them to guesstimate.
But probably not Peter Goey, cause
Yeah.
he could have a really busy snow year that.
True. And I'd say, well, actually really with Mike too, if they get a call at, 11 o'clock at night and then they're stuck there till 3 in the morning doing paperwork.
Or if he's gotta pull a detail in for traffic or
Yeah.
something like that.
But so when I look at this, and then I know we haven't fully discussed it on the board level, talking about making the fire chief a full-time paid position and combining, what I'm seeing is it's definite move towards growth on this, and exponential growth. When positions are created like this, they take on a life of their own. None of these are in effect right now, and I think when we,
They're all in effect.
well, no, we don't have a building inspector,
Oh.
fire chief,
The fire,
all that.
fire guys.
We don't have another full-time position on our payroll
Right.
yet.
Mm-hmm.
We currently have stipends,
Which I think would cut down on your salary budgeting a little bit too, because you would have that full-time person that would cover some of that.
it's possible.
It's possible, that one's a whole
And-
different,
And like Lou said, this here, it would be highly dependent on the supervisors, those who are in charge.
It's their job to manage it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it opens, see, this is where I'm saying, the door is open now, a full-time paid fire chief, and pretty quickly, the deputy's gonna wanna be.
Well,
And,
you were already,
and on it goes, is what I'm saying.
but there's been other conversations about having a full-time fire chief anyway, because we were talking about, combining that with the building inspector and
That's
all
what
the
I'm
other stuff.
referring to, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, let's take one step at a time.
I think that's gonna depend on the growth of the town, and the growth of the
Yeah.
town is coming so quickly that, that full-time fire chief, building inspector thing that hopefully we will be at least taking a look at, I think is a different discussion.
Mhm.
That's gonna incorporate a lot of that administrative, our growth of our town with the building inspector and a lot of that duplication of like safety codes and all of that is all gonna be rolled into that, and if you can't efficiently roll it in and justify it, then, that's gonna have to be a decision, but this is separate, I think.
Right, but I'm looking at the whole, like what I'm seeing as the bit, what's
Long
rolling
term.
down the road
Long
at
term.
us is this, that it's gonna not vary, but potentially turn to like the police budget where we have to have all the health insurance, the retirement, all these things, because we're taking this step. And
If you
maybe that's a
have-
little bit sky
you-
is falling view, I don't know.
Well, so if you kind of
Well,
like
because they don't
weigh
have
the
to work
numbers out a
30
little
hours a
bit.
week.
What did you say? 20%? I guess the stipend has to be less than 20%.
Yeah, has to be less than 20% of what a firefighter makes with
And-
benefits.
So you're like right now, you're at what was it 10 or 12
10 or 12 what?
thousand a year? Your stipend.
Mine is 11.5.
11, yeah. So you multiply that times 5. That's about $60,000 a year. We're right at that. Even with you.
Yeah.
We're at a cut, like at the threshold of we couldn't move her stipend up if we wanted to. Because the average fire chief, makes about, I'd assume Mason was what, around 60?
Yeah, Mason,
Yeah.
I think he just went up. He started at 65, and I think he took on emergency management too, so I think he's now at 75.
Yeah, but so 65
Yeah.
for the fire chief role, and that's kind of, there's some that are greatly more, but, the average-ish. So you're kind of like, our hands are tied in that regards with, being able to, give, our fire chief more money, like in their stipend. It's not something that you can continually just, compound.
Well, the more you expect out of them, and the more time you're taking up of their lives, they need to be compensated for that.
Yeah, I don't.
But that
I
doesn't
don't.
hold true for everything, because
But Jason,
Look
if
at
you
you.
look at an hourly rate for a call person, they're not gonna be full-time, so they're not gonna get health insurance and all those benefits, they're just getting paid for the time that they're there. So, I feel like you're going from here to here,
I do
and
have,
I think the town would have to significantly grow to justify that drastic a step where all of a sudden you're paying, 3 or 4 firefighters plus their benefits, and I just, like I said, I looked at the last 3 or 4 years, and we have really been in that 175 to 220 for us. 225 is a high year of fire calls, so you're not gonna ever get to the place where you have to give people health insurance or anything based on 32 hours a week, because they're not gonna work 32 hours a week. Unless we have a rash of fires,
Well, and
unless the
don't-
because
population
they're
of the town
only
goes up to
coming for the
10,000.
hour that they're there.
Right, but don't most of the firefighters have full-time jobs?
They all have full-time jobs.
Yeah, so they're not gonna quit their full-time job to make $17 an hour.
No, and that's, my point is the direction that it appears to me things are heading. That kind of philosophy, this takes away the doing it cause I just like it to now.
It does.
Well, no, but you even said so, because now it's like, what do you think they're worth? I mean, don't you think they're at least worth this much money? And it's like, well, they're probably worth a whole lot more than that.
Right.
The stipend was the old way, and the new way is, I guess, this way. The new way is highly variable, and will be, I guarantee.
You're also being forced into the new way.
No, because you can still have the stipend.
You're-
The state is just saying the way the stipend was structured is illegal, as far as I understand it. If you restructure your stipend, then it's fine.
But they haven't come up with, from what I'm hearing from Meredith, is they haven't come up with an example of what is a structured stipend.
Who has
Yeah,
it?
all they used was a membership. It has to be a membership.
Are we the only town in the state that does stipends, or?
We're one of very few. Wilton still does stipends, because what I did was I reached out to all the area towns. So I reached out to Peterborough, Ashby, Jaffrey, Mason, Greenville has a stipend. It's almost not a lot, it's not a lot. I think it's less than what we already pay. And then Wilton does their stipend and they have no criteria, you get your check just because your name's on the roster. That's the way they found it easiest to do. Everybody else is working on an hourly. Mason is the one that just went to hourly. Jaffrey's been hourly for, golly, as long as I can remember, as has Peterborough and Ashby as well. So they've all been doing hourly ratings for, and they're the ones that we work with the most, so that's why I reached out to them, but Greenville just does a minimum stipend just to kind of give their guys something, but they're looking at moving forward, but they haven't done anything yet, so I can't tell you what they're looking at doing.
Kind of what, like the lens I'm looking at this through is keeping that, you know, for lack of a better term, like merit-based system. Like if you're active and working, like you're being paid while you're there to do so, and you're not going to be compensated, you know, for times that you're not there. So that it keeps those people that are actually productive or, you know, in the fire department encouraged, you know, that they're being, you know, it's a reward of sorts.
And none of them are out for the money.
Yeah.
Because if they were, they wouldn't be doing this, they'd be doing
Right.
And that's what
something
my
else.
that's what my point is. If they're not, then why change it?
Mm-hmm.
Because
If
not
they
we-
are, then well, if we want a fire department and they're saying we want this, then we better listen. But if it's really not coming from their hearts, this is just coming from the state, then I think we should seriously consider this,
They
the
want
structure
this
of pay.
system. They want the hourly, the guys that are faithfully coming all the time want the hourly system. And because they see the people that are getting paid for doing nothing, and that's,
But then
It's just
people
not right.
should
It's
just
like a
be
slap in
removed
the
from
face
the
of
roster
people
is
who
what
do
my
do it.
point is.
Except they can't,
Well, they
well, we can fire them, in essence, can fire a volunteer.
but you have to
But
have
there are
justification for that.
times
wait, they're
when,
not volunteers.
so there are well, my husband says you can't fire volunteers, but you can.
Yeah.
There are times when on a building fire, you want those extra people and maybe they work extra hours and they can't come all the time. But man, if we've been at a building fire for 10 hours, and then we have to come back and wash hose and everything, and they come by and they help clean up. You don't wanna just keep dumping people off the roster just because they don't show up as much as the other people. You wanna be able to reward the people that constantly show up and not over-reward the people that only show up when they feel like it. I guess I like what Sean just said, in that it seems the best way to keep the merit-based structure going and still be legal with the state. Because we're rewarding the people that are showing up and we're not rewarding the people that are not. And yet we can utilize those people when they do show up and they get their $18 because they came and washed hose.
But I understand what you're saying too,
I do too.
like the disaster end of it, cause you see it happen all over the place and.
I don't see it as a short-term thing. I'm just looking long-term. It's gonna be a line that's probably will increase faster than stipends would.
Well, yes or no, you know, cause, you know, we probably could only go up so much on the stipends anyways right now. I never knew that 20% rule, so,
And then
Yeah.
what would happen if that maxed out? Would we lose our firefighters?
well, the state would do
No,
something.
the state would
Yeah.
make you do something different, I would assume.
What do you mean?
Well, because it's the state requirement that says that you can't exceed,
20%.
you got your computer? It's 29 CFR 533.106 in parentheses E. Stipends cannot be based on that's performance or fluctuation. Department of Labor uses the word nominal fee, which is the definition of a stipend, which in an opinion letter is stated must be less than 20% of what a full-time person would make in the area doing the same job.
So let's say you got an $18 times 2,000 hours a year. That's 36,000. And 20% of that would be 7,200.
Pretty impressive if it's right.
I didn't hear what you
That's
said.
right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
But
He can
Yeah.
tell he's a math guy.
it's on his numbers tonight,
What's that?
you're on your numbers tonight.
I guess I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that going to an hourly rate will speed that up, or staying at a stipend would prevent it.
Hey, in all reality, we could try this till the end of the year, and if it goes awry, scrap it, and then just reinstitute the stipends.
I wouldn't
No
say
problem.
scrap it, we'll take another look at it.
Yeah, well,
Reassess.
reassess, or scrap, whatever. Go to something different, and probably have to move the stipends up for all the firefighters, cause I know that, you know, they're kinda,
they're asking
I've
for
heard that comment anyways, like, because the point of what it takes to just simply respond to a fire, you know, they're losing money doing this, you know, so you gotta weigh things out, like, why would you constantly lose,
They
you know?
want-
You
They
ask
want to
yourself
do it-
that as you
they-
sit in your chair.
I don't ask myself that.
And I always thought that was the way it was with them. But
Yeah.
if it's not anymore,
And
then it's
their
reached
risk,
a different level.
their risk level is quite a bit different
Yeah.
than like me
Than
sitting
being
in
on
this
TV,
chair.
I don't know.
Not sure. Not sure.
I'll
about
take
that
the
show.
TV.
But
Depends,
they're
there were
doing
some
it-
times in the last couple of years, I don't know, I wouldn't have sat in that seat.
Yeah. In reality, their hearts are with their town and with their neighbors.
That's what I believe.
And I don't think by paying them hourly, they're saying anything less.
Mhm.
Because again, you're still gonna get the people who have a passion for it, that are gonna keep doing it, and they're going to get rewarded for doing it. And the people that don't really care, show up at a building fire, are still gonna show up at a building fire and get their $18.
Yeah.
As opposed to their $1,200 for the year.
So it's potential increases, and we can try it for this year, the rest of the year. We said the same thing about the health insurance. And so we're taking on these additional costs, we just voted to take on upgraded accounting software. And all of these additional costs we're taking on and saying, well, we could revisit it in January. Let me tell you, when we revisit it in January, if that healthcare thing is gonna be it's gonna be a touchy subject, because which of the employees we said we would like you guys to contribute more? Who's gonna say, yeah, I'll contribute more? Nobody is. And so every time we do these kinds of things, we're setting ourselves up for adversarial conditions.
Well, we're in potential adversarial conditions currently.
And I do understand that.
Mhm.
But the
It's
way
it's
it was
being proposed.
the attempted way of doing stipends, merit-based, the state won't allow it.
Yeah.
But it's not only that, the guys wanna get paid by the hour. That would be the bigger picture for me, and so we try it for 6 months.
Yeah.
They wanted it, we try it, good luck taking it back. It ain't happening.
Well, the only way that we take it back is if there's a blatant disregard for the spirit of what's going on and a gross abuse of it. You know, Meredith comes in October and says, I need $25,000 more for, you know, to
Can't
be able to
control my
cover.
people.
Yeah, that, it's gonna be glaring, Jason, and it's gonna, you know, like
And I'm
Lou
not
had made the
predicting
point,
that.
and Meredith's willing to stand behind this as that department's manager and say that she has faith in herself, her staff, and that they can manage this. And with the current, you know, board here and the current management people in place, for the fire department, it won't be going in that direction that you're thinking, like, that all of a sudden we're gonna need to create 3 full-time positions.
And you gotta remember, I didn't say, oh.
No, I know,
I
it's
said
overtime.
the door is cracked so that we can get full-time workers. And I'm not putting a timeline on it or anything, and maybe that's just inevitable.
He's gonna be 90, he's gonna be, see, I told you.
you so.
Right?
But with a
knew
with
this
a
was
town
gonna happen
with a
40
town
years
of
ago.
25,000 people,
That ain't happening.
I almost wanted
I
to
will
say that we should, but we can't. Because my first gut thing was try it for 6 months, and then if it doesn't work, we've tried other things at the fire department that we tried a scan code for check-in. It was a catastrophe. Nobody liked it. I got basically voted off the island. I was gonna say try it, do a comparative for 6 months of continue the stipend and do the comparative. The problem is we're still in violation of the labor laws, and in order to meet the current requirements for the hourly rate, we have to pay them every month. So probably the best way to do it would be just to, well, I'm not gonna make a decision, because if I didn't believe in this, I wouldn't be presenting it, but
Right.
the only other way you can do it right now is that we paid, you would have to say that you want to continue under this current stipend thing, which, knowing that
we can't
we
under
can't.
the current one.
Right.
We
And
would have
we
to
did
switch.
for January to June just because we had to resolve it, but we can't continue for 6 more months.
Mhm.
So you would either have to make a decision that everybody from here on out to the end of the year gets their full stipend whether they show up or not, or we go to an hourly rate.
And now this is
When
one
she
of-
was going through the numbers,
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this earlier, before you showed up. The difference came out about $2,000 to $2,500 more.
For
But
this year.
doing a comparison of going with,
And right now, we're way under, so, I mean, I think there's 46 and change in the line item, in the payroll line item, and we spent, just spent 18 and change. I was looking for that email that I sent you.
yeah,
18,800. So we've got a little bit, I've got a little bit of wiggle room to say, yeah, this is gonna be a little, $2,000 more or whatever. And again, I think it falls on the incident commanders and the officers to say, you shouldn't be here and you shouldn't get paid and stop taking advantage of it. And I don't think people are gonna do that, but I think on a case by case basis, we have to manage it.
And besides, if it were your house burning, would you wanna hear the commanders say, we need to send 6 guys home because we're not meeting the budget?
Well, I mean, for that matter, Lou, $45 an hour, full-time, health insurance, benefits, everything, because you can't put a price on what these
No,
guys do.
that's right.
So,
Absolutely right.
All in favor?
as
No.
far as, as far as that argument goes, that's how I view it.
Right.
But
That's not what's being
these guys
discussed.
aren't looking for that.
I
Yeah.
understand that, and I do appreciate it too. I think every taxpayer and resident in town appreciates.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no question there.
I think
So
they're
I
just looking for something that's fair and equitable,
Yeah.
and I don't know of any other way to do it.
So I'm gonna call for a vote at this point. I'm gonna make a motion to accept moving the fire department over to hourly rates as proposed and outlined on the sheets that Meredith provided us. You know, effective immediately. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor,
Well,
or is there any,
I have discussion.
additional discussion, alright.
What
Yes,
have we
sir.
been doing for the last 45
So
minutes?
I just wanted to finish that thought
Okay,
of 5 months from now, we can revisit it. We could revisit it with the field still wide open. If we took the hit on the stipends
yeah,
just for the rest of the year and looked at how this is gonna impact the annual budget next year. So now you wouldn't be taking away from the firefighters if after the end of this year.
yeah, to essentially, return, the way you're saying, return to the stipend base, but at higher stipends.
Well, it would just be as the state lays out, which,
Which means anybody gets paid even though they don't do anything. That would be, I think that would be worse. I'm trying to phrase this the right way.
For morale,
That would be worse for morale to say, the selectmen just want everybody to get paid the same and we'll just revisit it in 6 months, as opposed to rewarding the people that do the job. And saying, we're gonna revisit it in a year, and then we put the stipulation that says, under that, and I think maybe your motion should be that it gets revisited at the end of the year or during budget season, to say it will be revisited. And then it's up to them, it's up to me to say to them, look, this is still under a microscope that says, are we gonna abuse it? Are we, are you racking up your hours? Are you, whatever, and maybe I have to come with a
it doesn't
clear
have to be
number.
in the motion,
We will
'cause
have
can
clear
revisit.
numbers at the end of 6 months, cause everything is being tracked in our new system.
You can revisit it at any time.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't
yeah,
think,
you really
it
can.
doesn't need to, so it's under a microscope, it
Yep.
doesn't have to be in the motion.
Okay,
You know that, your guys, some of them watch the videos and, like the ones I talk to, I'll let them know that it's probationary really, like just to see how this goes, how the numbers all work out, and we'll see, and just having, looking at it as a, good faith effort, like of trying out something new and different, and just to see that it won't explode a budget, cause I believe that we still have control over that budgeting aspect of things. This
But it's
isn't
still
gonna
up to
force
the
anything.
managers to manage it.
Correct.
They have a budget to work for.
so now that's more work on you guys' end. They
But-
would need to get paid more.
But if,
actually, the new computer system that we have tracks it, so it tracks it to the, exactly how much they get paid, it gets sent off to Roger.
So you feel like if we held up, we didn't vote for this, it's gonna be a kick in the teeth to the firefighters.
Yep.
And so that's the direction that we go.
Yeah, to try it and to see, and I was encouraged with your assessment of the past 6 months, that it came out so close, you know, and that was, you guys derived these numbers, you know, out of the air, like started out of the air and kind of just with some research of local, like other towns, and we're conservative with the numbers, it's apparent.
We're not taking the bottom.
Exactly, and you asked for that extra layer of, you know, like what was the past 6 months,
Mhm.
here's what it is, and it's really close. So
But I
that
guess
tells me
to
that the
say-
numbers are good.
I guess to say like an untrained firefighter makes $12, well, there's a stepping stone that they can take to make more money if they want to. All they have to do is get certified, then they get more. So it's not, I'm gonna come back and say, oh, a non-certified firefighter really deserves more because Dunkin' Donuts is paying more. I can say to those guys, you wanna get paid more, get certified,
Mm-hmm.
because then your value is higher. So there is a reward system built into this, the more you, now if everybody is, I can tell you that everybody is not going to try and go for the top level, cause there's people that have not gotten EMT in the 30 years that they've been there. But there might be some people that, you know, non-certified people, I've got 3 people that are going to class this fall that will be certified, so they'll make that jump to $16 an hour. Once they pass it, which would be close to the end of the year, so it's not gonna affect my budget very much. But there is an incentive there to make more of
Right.
themselves as well, rather than coming back to you and saying, well, they really need more, cause they're just nice guys.
Do you have any other points or conversation?
Nope.
Lou?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, it's a tough
Opposed?
one. I think I'll abstain. Not opposed, just abstaining.
Okay. Now, in abstention, I'm not clear on this, cause I've heard a couple of different points of view. Can you abstain from any vote that you don't like, or, I guess you can, right?
It's,
I thought you had to have a reason,
I don't know if you
No.
have to, I think it's
No.
purely choice, like any way,
Right.
just
Okay.
didn't wanna vote.
alright. Motion passes,
201.
Yep.
Got it.
thank you,
Alright,
Amanda.
we're off and running,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
and your patience.
I'm on stipend, so I could have stayed here all night saying no.
So it wouldn't cost us
Thank you.
anymore, thanks
Right.
Meredith. Well, that is, you know, a point too,
Right.
keeps those deputy and chief roles as stipends
For now.
for now.
Yeah.
Alright. So you went through all your old new business
Yep.
stuff. One thing that you had in our packets, was to save the date for the 2022 budget and finance hybrid workshop.
I just put that in yours.
Oh, I just put it in mine?
Yeah.
Alright, well, thank you, cause I was hoping to speak on it anyways, and it was a nice
Well,
reminder.
that's why I did it, cause you
What was
wanted
that?
to speak on it.
There's budget and finance training coming up.
Oh.
So
September.
September 20th, and looks like it's an all-day class. It's a Tuesday, so 9 a.m. to 4:30.
Is it a Zoom meeting or is it a live?
To be held at the Dairy Field Country Club in Manchester and virtually by Zoom. So theoretically, we go hang out all day and take the class by Zoom, and then go right into our meeting.
Yep.
That would be amazing. Wait, I do that every day anyway. Never mind.
So the cost is $90 per person for in-person attendance, and $70 per person for virtual. And the registration's open until
It
Oh,
doesn't,
to
it
open
doesn't
on
open
August
until-
1st.
Yeah,
So where I was kinda going with this was I think it would be valuable for all of our new FAC members, the new ones, and us as well,
Agreed.
and the time frame's perfect,
right?
so we don't have to make any decisions, but
Mhm.
we definitely, I think
Yeah.
it'd be a worthwhile $600 or so to spend.
I see it.
Did you wanna see it, Lou, or?
No, I just wanna go.
Okay. So it's positive feedback so far, Debbie.
Excellent.
So, August 1st is a Monday, so we'll put that on our, August
For
2nd.
Everybody.
yeah, just to make sure,
Yeah.
like, as a part of our August 2nd meeting.
Why is first, not highlighted as a regular number for August? Is it a holiday of some sort?
Civic holiday in Canada
Okay,
is what my calendar has it as, I don't know if that one has it.
Yeah. Civic holiday Canada.
Oh, and actually not
So
the
that's a-
second, I'm
that's
not,
That's a Canadian bank, so that's why they would have.
no, we can't talk about that.
You're not gonna be here?
No.
So, you don't wanna do it that
No, we
way?
can, cause
Okay.
it's, it's
Just
kinda
for
coming back to
attendance, so I
making
can
sure, yeah, like to get
I
the,
can send the email
yeah,
to
it's like a
register
reminder,
everyone.
so the meeting's August 2nd, right?
Our BOS meeting, August 2nd,
No, but the class is,
September 20th.
oh, September 20th, okay.
Yep.
Which is during our meeting, okay.
Except it's during the afternoon, is it?
9 to 4:30,
It's
All
at
day.
4:30, so
all day.
I
Vacation
guess,
day.
can we attend it here on the screen so we can just have catered dinner in that half hour between
Jeez.
4:30 and 5?
Shall I order lobsters now?
Could you please? I'd rather
No.
have a steak.
I looked at, there's like one of them things online that you order online, they're way more expensive. That'll be non-public. Oh, did you get any
We
type?
need to do an finance advisory discussion, right?
We're gonna have that in non-public.
That's
'Cause we're
gonna be
gonna
a
just-
non-public?
Yeah, we're gonna discuss all the candidates
Fine,
and pluses and minuses. It's the only reason that we're doing it non-public is that I want,
No, it's,
that's fine.
it's a proper.
You don't need an excuse for
I
that.
think so.
I believe
I
it
just-
is
I
because
did
it's,
too.
it's not fair to be,
Right.
especially when nobody's here.
To answer for, and it's really
Right,
just
and
our
it's-
feelings on,
Yeah, and we just have to
yeah,
keep it civil.
Yep.
And we will. It's not because we wanna bash anybody by any means. We're so appreciative of everybody who
Yep.
has stepped forward.
So,
So do you wanna do,
1 second, Lou, I just kinda going down my list of old new business.
Okay,
Did you get any update from Monadnock Security regarding like what went wrong for sure? With the communication issue transitioning from Saturday morning afternoon to Sunday morning afternoon.
I did not. I talked to Charlie, and I asked him as far as, like, we are scheduling we're due for an annual inspection anyway for the fire and secured, is it just the fire? For the alarms. And, so he scheduled that for August 1st? No, wait. I forget, I wrote it down, I'm sorry. I'll let you know, I'll send you an email. But, so he scheduled the annual inspection, and he said, because we hardly have any issues, it just happened that we had a lot of issues over the weekend. He didn't feel that we needed to like beef up, cause I asked him, do we need to update any of our systems, the fire or the security, and he said he didn't think we needed to get a new system.
Mm-hmm.
The one that we have should be working perfectly
Which the
fine.
tech said when he was here too.
Yeah, so he said, you know, I mean, you're good, status quo, you're due for your annual inspection, we'll schedule that. And, you know, cause I did tell him that it's not an alarm that goes off, it's just a notification basically that panel beeps, cause of building 2. It's been doing it for years and nobody's ever looked into it, so I'm like, this needs to be fixed, cause
Okay,
every
so
day,
that'll be being
yeah,
addressed.
so that's gonna be part of that inspection also, and we'll figure out why.
Yeah,
So, but he did not think that we needed to increase or get a new system for either.
so my question was more geared towards that communication aspect. Cause they told me that they were going to request all of the recorded lines
Yeah.
to be pulled and every timestamp of all the alarms that went off all through the weekend
Yeah.
to figure out exactly where that directive came from cause this alarm was going off from what I understand for about 7 hours
Right,
at the town office and it was ignored,
right,
which was what we talked about not happening.
right,
So I know that the tech had said, well, it was in test mode, but eventually county decided to reach directly out to the fire department and say, hey, are you ever gonna do anything about this alarm?
oh,
So
so I
instead of
didn't,
calling me or you,
Right.
or like, cause at that point they had let it go for 7 or 8 hours, what created that situation, you know?
right, so I thought that when you said it was in, he said it was in test mode, I did see, you know, cause the first email said all of the, they're gonna pull all the records, blah, 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 but then the next email said he left it in test mode, which to me that explained why they didn't call. So I didn't even really ask Charlie.
I need them to have
about
that
that.
answer though, you know, like between county, Monadnock Security,
Right,
what all of a suddenly changed their concern to thus call
right,
the fire department directly and also stating that calls had been made to myself and you,
right,
which
they were not,
never occurred,
right,
so
okay, so I didn't ask him about that because I assumed that was the answer when
No,
he had it in
there's-
test mode,
a couple of different layers,
okay,
you know, there.
alright. But he didn't offer anything up, so
Mhm.
I'm assuming that they didn't have the records yet, or
Yeah.
or maybe he's not the person to talk to.
I'm
It was
not-
Charlie. that I
it's
talked
Bryce,
to. Okay.
is who I
talked to
spoke
Charlie.
with,
Okay.
yeah,
I'll get on that
from
tomorrow.
Monadnock Security.
Okay.
And him, like, and if he says, well, I think it must have been the test aspect, well, that's not enough, like,
You want all the
there's
records.
other things now.
Yeah.
Because county also has, like, the key holder information.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they circumvented that.
Okay.
And then I ended up needing to come anyways to let people in to
Right.
the building, you know,
Right.
so, but I was, you know, thankfully, our own fire department knew to reach out,
Right.
but I don't know how long, you know, people were sitting outside the building, waiting for
Right.
me. So,
So
and then that's another part
they
of
can't
like,
get in with the Knox box.
I don't know, like Eric has a code, like I'm not sure exactly why, but like they like to have a key holder here, which is something that I didn't
Oh, I didn't
know,
know
cause the
that.
building wasn't burning. So
Oh.
there wasn't really, you know, any reason for them to rush in. And we had gone through that whole thing on Saturday already.
Right.
So just to find out, yeah, just all the different elements of
Okay.
response, and that's why in that email, the second one, I made sure to ask or, you know, the police chief and the fire chief to let their personnel know that we're
Right.
responding to all alarms
Right.
at the town office because
Right.
apparently
Yeah.
it wasn't being responded to.
Okay.
And I get it, it's annoying when it's a
No.
false alarm
Yeah,
or
oh,
like
yeah.
a hardware issue, but
Right.
you know, it's gonna be that one time.
Yeah, exactly. That you
Yeah.
ignore it, and here we are.
Yep.
But you know, if they were reaching out to you first, if they can't reach you, do they have a list of alternate people?
Yeah, then they go to Debbie.
Okay.
So like Friday night, and this is like completely on me, I get calls for the security system going off regularly. So I had started to ignore that, like those calls, because I had come up here 2 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever, and there's nobody up here because nothing's.
A cobweb was in front of one of the motion sensors. That
Yeah.
used to happen all the time.
And the police have already come down and checked all the doors and have gone. It's so regular that there's this bit of, you know, that call in particular, I ignored. And then it took a couple hours, but then they got Debbie, and then, you know, she got involved in that part, and I feel, you know, bad for ignoring it, but it's showing that almost like the crying wolf aspect, like
Right.
of the alarm
Yeah.
systems, and everybody's sort of becoming numb to it because it goes off so frequently and
Right.
falsely.
And now it's getting addressed.
Yeah, it was a real knock in my head, you know, like that there could have been a bigger issue, you know, and it wasn't just a typical, you know, false like ghost alarm
Right.
call.
Yeah, it was fire. It wasn't security.
Yeah, and that's what I didn't. There was no way for me to differentiate the two
Right.
either. You know,
Right.
like the fire alarm versus just the security alarm, or yeah. So, but they do. They have a like a established communication
Okay.
path that they're supposed to take, and that's what I'm most interested in is why it was broken, how, and how for how long, like how come for so long, and then
Right.
what all of a sudden caused them to go outside that established communication path, you know, to call.
Right.
I don't know who they called first, and it could just be comfortability, which is fine, but at the same time, you know, we have that call tree
Yeah.
for a reason.
Right.
So, yep. Alright. Oh, and we already talked about the mock presentation next week,
Mm-hmm.
so we're good with that. I think that's all I have for tonight. Did you have anything, Jason? Like to follow up on?
Very small item, when I was looking over this budget thing, have we done anything with the record storage?
Town clerk has, tax collector.
Oh,
But,
that's who does it. The records.
But that's on the town clerk tax collector budget.
Oh, and we had some.
Yeah, I didn't know we were gonna do anything.
Thought we had a company that was gonna come in and preserve them ancient books.
Tax
that we
collector
had.
books, yeah, those are being preserved as we speak.
They are.
But
That's what I
I
was.
wasn't aware
That's what I was.
that there was anything in the selectmen's budget for
Yeah,
that.
there is 1,000 record storage preservation.
I remember that one specifically. That line specifically. I have to go back in that, like our book, to what that was for, like who was gonna come in and do that, or is that what? Well, no, because the Historic Society's doing a different.
Oh.
Isn't there a group of people in like that come in that've been going through the records and sorting through everything?
But that's the town clerk tax collector budget.
That's all for town clerk tax collector.
That was where the bigger dollar amount was. Yeah.
Okay.
So, given the hour, I won't bring up anything else.
Okay. Lou, did you have anything?
Only on the minutes. there was one line in there where you started with the name Michael Gluck had, was asking a question, and since he's wasn't part of our group that was discussing it, he was a member of the audience.
Mhm.
I thought that should be defined, that that he was a participant from,
like resident or something,
I'm sorry, what?
like maybe in like resident, put resident in parentheses
Yeah,
or,
right, just resident.
Is that here? Cause we can pen things in if we see something, can we not? And if everyone else agrees,
yeah, yes, these minutes are here.
we can just,
So I listed all of their
Also,
names under the finance advisory,
Right, and but this had nothing
that
to
they were here.
yeah, that had nothing to do with the finance advisory at that time.
I know, but I just figured his name was
Yeah.
already there, so,
Okay, I just thought because it was a separate thing that maybe
either way, however you
we
want it.
want to define it, that
Yeah.
he was speaking from the audience and not from,
Well, I mean,
It's okay, yeah,
whatever.
that's all.
alright, cool, that's it?
Yeah.
Alright, so at this point, I'd like to make a motion to enter into non-public session under RSA 91A3(2)(C). To discuss the appointments of our finance advisory candidates.
second?
All in favor?